see here, we've joined right back into a fight, though. Michael Picconi versus Will Friedman. Number 5 versus the number 787. And this is a team that's gone sort of seldom discussed over the course of the race at large. This being the De Ave Maria team, the number 5 car. I mean, yeah, can do with that. I mean, that is quite the team logo. But fair enough, you know, they're passionate about what they do. Michael Picconi, Gino Latore, and Salvatore Borgetto, all behind the wheel of the number 5 Ferrari. Starting to see, it's about 6 p.m. local here in Circuit Zolder. We see Scott Milbank and Sebastian Turner side by side nearly on their way down towards turn 10. Michael Picconi jumps to the pit lane with the De Ave Maria team, taking a cone with him there. So let's get back on with the fights we missed out on. We can see that Norbil Mbele now takes up the slack of the number 9 Race Division Ferrari and is caught in between Dennis Kuhlmann in the 77 and Levi Warner in the number 23. Let's try and re-establish proper grounds with what we missed out on here. Right now, that top 3 remains all the same. Nat Bennett, Ilkay Kilinkoglu, and Jorbit van Heulen. Cass van Beltzen in 4th. Kieran O'Reilly up to 5th. Axel Cassier down to 6th. Danny Dion in 7th. Ben Schiessman in 8th. John Williams in 9th. And Byron Forrest in 10th. Yannick Fredericks in 11th place, having swapped in favour of his teammate for the Whale Racing Team, number 696. So in the midst of our chaos there, we did miss on the pit stop. Kieran Rodd in 12th place, Gianluca Zamponi 13th, Dennis Kuhlmann 14th, Levi Warner 15th, Norbil Mbele in 16th. We've just got a report there, brake pedal problem for the 51. That's Danny Dion with Sparco Racing. We see here with Dion, trouble for the brake pedal. He is getting a little bit more hesitant on the brakes there in towards turn 7. You can start to see that problem manifest itself for Dion. Something is not 100% there with that Mustang. We'll see it, case in point, heading in towards Boulderberg Harshbelt Box, one of the heaviest braking zones here in Zolder, but he's managed to tuck that one in nice and tidy. But could it be a trip to the pit lane to address this issue firsthand for Dion? Looking here, the number 51. I mean, he's got Kalin on his team. Sadly, it says they also have Enzo. Enzo's not with them for this race, so he's got his option of his teammate at least to pass the baton over to whilst he addresses the issue on his rig. You can see here Zolt Beefgartner is right in the middle of it. Kevin Quain only 0.7 of a second up the road. We've got, looking here, that being, I believe that's Leon Geisler with the Majestic Racing Team. Will Friedman not too far away either. Is only 2 corners away from Geisler in the number 94. Right up his backside, though. That's Ben Meredith with the Euro Titans team. Levi Warner, 0.2 of a second behind and now ahead of Dennis Kuhlmann. So we caught that one out between the two. The 23 now up to 14th and ahead of the number 77 with NRW Performance. So looking for the nearest fights on track right now. Zolt Beefgartner versus Kevin Quain. He rolls over, though, to let Yannick Fredericks on past on his way into turn 10. Salvatore Borgetto now behind the wheel of the De Ave Maria car. We saw it come into the pit lane earlier on. They're currently 25th in the race. Looking as to who's leading then, for those of you just joining us now, the top 3 for both divisions is as follows. Nat Bennett, Ilkay Kilinkoglu and Jorbit van Heulen on the podium for the pro category. For the privateers, it's Danny Dion, Yannick Fredericks and Dennis Kuhlmann spread apart there. 7th, 11th and 15th overall. In the background there, I do believe that is Borgetto getting very, very close here to trying to unlap himself from Leon Geisler. Then Meredith behind him, challenging for 24th on the field. We'll be seeing a battle of the Ferraris here in a moment's time, heading down towards the Kleiner chicane. We'll stay on board with the attacking of the two. Ben Meredith try and cut on board with Meredith from his point of view. Meredith's joined by Alan Alexander. We saw Alexander earlier on in today's race. Now it's Meredith's turn to get behind the wheel, and he's right up behind the number 5 there, the Ave Maria. Finished in what I believe, now I don't want to be proven wrong on this because I know it's quite important, but is that not? I think that's Rosso Scuderia, that shade of red there for the Ferrari. It's the more brighter one they've been using nowadays on the newer models. Ooh, big trouble though. That's for Casey Malz. They just passed up there. That's with the Team Race line, number 60 in serious trouble. He drops now down to 29th. This fight, though, for 24th is incredible stuff here between Ben Meredith and Salvatore Borgetto. Just to address the time jump that you'll probably be seeing in the YouTube release, it says contact there between Borgetto and Meredith as we cut back on board with them. That has gone quite horrifically wrong. Let's get a look at that on the instant replays. Now, just to quickly address why there has been a significant time jump. We were doing some remodeling on the house, and the router got knocked over. Very simple problem, very, very dire consequences. Still on board with Ben Meredith, though, because despite that knock, he finds himself still close to his contemporary, that being Borgetto. We'll have to cut away from them, though. Yellow flags are out. It's for the 415 in serious disarray here on the exit of turn 4. Let's see if we can catch on board with the 415 at this time and see what the scope of the damage is looking like. And it looks like dire consequences for one of the MSA cars then. As we try to catch on board, we do just quickly see here some side-by-side action between Monnier, Chaplet and Friedman. But now we do try to find that 415 and try to examine here what has gone on. It's for Kieran O'Reilly, so a budding competitor of the top 5 in today's race. Finds himself down and out through turn 4, but doesn't look to be with major damages. So back into green flag conditions past the exit of the Turleman box. It's back to smooth sailing for Kieran O'Reilly, I should say. But he is not going to be particularly happy about it. One driver who will be, though, Axel Cassier, promoted to the top 5. Right now, it's a real tour de force for Bentley. 2 cars in the top 5, one leading the charge there. Nat Bennett in the 788, the reigning Pro Division champion of the Console Endurance Series. And the newcomer to the field then, the Malois Racing Team, the Canadian upstart, heralded by Season 1 Sunday League champion Christian Lebay, has assembled a crack team of professionals here to get behind the wheel of the Bentley to lead an almost naval charge into this league. And right now, spearheading that move is the 99 of Cassier. Now joined at the moment by Gianluca Zamponi. You can see up the road here. Actually looked to be more action for, I believe that was Ben Meredith, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, it is. Let's go and find Ben Meredith here. Still fighting with Salvatore Borgetto, the Dell'Ave Maria team. Casey Malz right behind them as well. He ran into a spot of bother earlier on in today's race. I will say it's a stand-up job for defence so far by Borgetto in that number 5. He was given the baton over by Picconi not too long ago. We also saw a very brief interlude by Gino Latorre over the course of today's race. Now as we're 2 hours in, oh my goodness, a huge sling for the pit lane there by the number 99. Axel Cassier rockets to the pit lane. He's had enough on this stint. Will he be handing the baton over then to Karl Martel? Only time will tell us different. 2 hours then into today's race, and it has been trouble on all sides for quite a few drivers, teams, race organisers, and even us alike. Okay, Koglu follows Axel Cassier into the pit lane. So what does that leave up for chances here for Jordi van Hurler and Cas van Veltzen? They find themselves closer to each other than they do to that front row. Van Hurler right now in the midst of traffic. Behind him his teammate Kelvin Castens. Up the road from him is Nobile Mbele and Dennis Kuhleman. 2 Ferraris there in the Privateers Championship. See here a Koglu in the pit lane just up the road from him. That's Axel Cassier. We'll see who he swaps over toward. Now the predictions have it placed that it'll be Karl Martel making his debut drive in that Bentley in a moment's time. Having a look around the field, the 415 in further trouble. So yellow flags are back out at this time. Let's see if we can go and catch with a 415. And we were right in the assertion that it was going to be Martel. Hooper in trouble down at the Turleman bot. Right now waiting for an opportunity to rejoin the track. Waits Friedman, then Miles, then back onto the track there, back in the green flag conditions for the time being, but it could be some serious damage for that 415 as he now drops out of the top 10. What started off as Kieran O'Reilly's troubles have now become Benjamin Hoopert's. So looking for the nearest fights on track here. Could be Kelvin Castens versus Norbil Mbele. Race Vision versus K1 Esports. This is for 14th place on the field. We've got a new first-time chatter here saying, how is it some drivers didn't change drivers? Is there a 70-minute stint? So to explain the system again, this is the second time we've had to explain it, so I'm glad that you asked because it allows us to refresh the minds of new viewers such as yourself. And how it works is the stint timer operates independently of the sort of pit stop limit. So the stint timer resets every time you come into the pits. And now we used to have it to be a case where some teams we found out were actually just driving straight through because even entering the pits would reset your stint limit on this game. It's a case now where part of the mandatory pit stop includes a driver swap, but that does not stop drivers from double stinting and not swapping drivers. All of the cars you see highlighted in green have swapped drivers at least once. The drivers who haven't are marked by the orange one because swapping your driver is a part of the mandatory pit stop, including also fuel and tyres and whatnot, any other requirements in there. So you can still pit and stay in that car, but you've just reset your stint timer and come back out. Technically, the only thing saying you have to swap driver is you have to swap driver once. Oh, hang on just a moment. Trouble for Mbele and Kuhlmann. Both Ferraris in serious disrepair there on the exit of turn 5. Let's get a look at that on the replay. So as we were explaining the system heading down towards here, you can see, yeah, contact there between Mbele and Kuhlmann down on the run into turn 5. So yeah, a TLDR basically of the point just explained is you can pit, you don't have to swap, you only have to swap once in the entire race. You can double stint as many times, you can double stint, triple stint, quadruple stint. I mean, if you're mental, yes, you can do that, but you only have to swap once. So it's totally up to the teams, and bear in mind you can have up to, I think it's up to 4 drivers per car, as we've seen with some team lineups, and it's not impossible to suggest we'll be seeing that over the course of the season. But it's a case where you've only got to swap once to any of those drivers. We see that the yellow flags remain out, this time for the number 5 of Salvatore Borgetto with the Delave Maria Ferrari team. So I can do 4 hours on my teammate. What? Yeah, so long as you pit, 4 times and reset your stint limit, yeah, absolutely. There's nothing in the rules to say you can't do that as far as I'm led to be aware. I mean, we have race control in the chat as well. If they want to weigh in on that, they know the rules better than I do. Into the pit lane comes the 2 leading cars there, Nat Bennett and Jorbit van Hurle. Cas van Veltzen looks to stay out then and usurp the lead of this race. The 313 stays out for the Euro Titans team. Marcus Carlos in the 414 now takes up the slack in what is going to be 2nd place after their 2 pit stops. The other number alongside each name is the maximum drive time. Not sure what number you mean there. I mean, I hope it's not on the overhead placard for like the car there, because that's the ping. That's their ping. Perhaps I'm being a little bit clueless here. I mean, it comes with the territory. On the pit menu when you're driving. Ah, gotcha. This is a driver's thing, not my sort of thing. We do see a drive-through penalty, though, and it's for Keanu Geiger with Black Nitro Racing. They're down in 31st, so it's really rubbing salt in the wounds for them today. let's see if we can get an eye on the shake-up at hand here with the top two into the pits. Actually, no, Fazzy Binks remains in the lead of that race. That maybe does actually go to show just how far up the road Binks and, by contrast, his teammate Nat Bennett have been from the rest of the field. Cas van Velzen does take second place, but Marcus Carlos only takes third. Elias Svenningsson, now behind the wheel of the 113, is reunited with his fellow K1 at the back of that top five, with Ben Cheeseman only a corner away in the 114. K1 in good stead here for the start of the championship. And now Svenningsson has the grand task of navigating traffic in his efforts to catch up to Marcus Carlos, who also finds himself weighed down with a very similar goal in mind. Have you got it bound to change the menu in the bottom left? Zamponi finally back into the top 10, says Klopter. Yeah, it's a long time coming for the 789. They were really up against it over the course of this race so far. So to finally see their way back to the top 10 has got to be quite a cathartic experience there for the exclusive esports team. Finally out the car from P10 to P3. I mean, what a drive that's been at the moment for the 414 team. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, that's Van Hurler. I do tend to forget everyone's names in chat there, so my mistake. Yeah, that was from Jorbe Van Hurler. So having since gone into the pits, they pitted from third. They're only down to fourth, so down one position. They're now handed into the hands of Elias Svenningsson in the 113. Now currently up in third is Marcus Carlos. I must say, on the topic of great drives today, I mean, come off it. Look at the current state for the 313. Cas van Velzen second in this race. He has had a monstrous drive in that Ferrari. I mean, hats off to the Euro Titans team. The signing of Cas van Velzen could not have come at a better time for them, because he's been able to cut his teeth over the waning half of Season 1. Now as he enters Season 2, he's a completely different animal. Moreover, he was in that championship runner-up for Season 3 of the Sunday League. He clashed heads with Melvin Milliston and Tyler Vermack for that title. Ultimately, it never went his way, but the chances for him to fight for a new championship lay bare before him with under 3 hours left to go here in Zolder. This is only the start, of course, of the championship at large. We'll be heading to the Nürburgring for the next round. Another 6-hour race and a legacy event, mind you, has been around for the last 2 seasons of endurance racing across both NLRL and formerly GHR. Nürburgring 6 hours was last one back in... I want to say back in early 2025, I would say, but we'll be visiting that here in the late 2025. See into the pits at the moment, the 315 of Ben Meredith with the Euro Titans team. Maxime Callin now in the number 51, swapping in for Danny Dion with the Sparco CTA Autosports team. They're down in 17th, only a second away from their fellow Ford Mustang, that being Zolt Beefgartner and the reigning Privateers Championship team, the Tempest Motorsports team. Last time they took a win was last season in Barcelona. We see in the background, though, Callin with huge impact there against the right-hand side concrete wall. He now drops further behind, looking to be potentially taken up very, very shortly by a rapidly approaching Leon Geisler. Actually, no, Geisler has actually now got ahead of Callin there, so we're trying to see Will Friedman is going to be next in line to come and have a go at Maxime Callin. So Cas van Velzen's into the pit, so crowning off what was a fantastic stint by him. He's into the pit lane. That gives Elias Svenningsson, and by proxy the teammate before him, Jorbe Van Hurler, the opportunity to return to the podium once more with K1 Esports. Their chances for a podium today are very, very likely here. It has been quite the twist in fate for K1 Esports. We saw it was definitely laying in the hands of the 111 of the BMW, Kelvin Castens, at the moment, for him to potentially be in the bookings for a top 5, let alone a podium finish. But now it's been handed over to the two McLarens, Svenningsson and Cheeseman. I want to point out, if we're talking driver of the day, look, well, I would say maybe look no further, but let's look pretty intently at Ben Cheeseman. His performance alongside Kyle Jenkins has been second to none. They started in the pit lane and are fifth in this race. Nearly 3 hours in, they could still elevate this one to a potential podium, following in the wake of their teammate Elias Svenningsson and Jorge van Herle. There has to be some degree of method to the madness that is Ben Cheeseman. The inner machinations of his mind are an enigma when it comes to that sort of stuff. How on earth he chooses on a 33 car grid it started today to start from the pit lane and then, oh, now I'm fourth in under 3 hours. How? How do you do this? So currently, as far as we know, yes, with that one indicator to his right-hand side, he has not actually yet come in and changed the teammate over. So Kyle Jenkins, he's been here on moral support for the majority of this race. We will yet see him get behind the wheel. Squash Design saying, hello, I'm new here. This looks like very good racing. How can I find a way to join? Well, look no further because we have a link. Yes, just letting you know as well, Wesley, I had to tell Jupiter about this. Yeah, you can't post. I made it to where no one but me can post links. It's, you know, safer that way. Trouble there once again for the Ferrari with Team Raceline. This time, no, that's Sparko Racing. Where is Team Raceline's Ferrari? I believe there. This is Thomas Romano in the number 60. And in 30th with trouble in Sector 1. So we'll have a gander around the field here as we're starting to enter a little bit of a dormant phase in the race so far. On board with Timo de Tosto, he and his teammates Byron Forrest and Christian LeBay started at the back of today's field after some minor mix-ups, let's say it, with the stint timers and then the repair of the grid. You see that, just double-checking again. Yeah, so Van Herle watching with his dad. You know, a very warm hello to the Van Herle household. Thank you for tuning in to TRTN on this fine evening. It's been a real labour of love to get the stream together, and I won't say I'm without fault. Of course, the Wi-Fi router did fall over downstairs and shut itself off, which is why we went off the air temporarily. So looking around the field here, we can see chasing onto the back end of Leon Geisler with Majestic Racing. It's Will Friedman with Exclusive Esports. And I must say, it has been a very peculiar race indeed. The 787, if I'm not mistaken, started from that front row, believe it or not, but now finds his way into 18th. And that was after quite serious calamity over the course of today's race. Right now looks to be chasing for 17th place off of Geisler and a fellow BMW. Around the field, speaking of BMWs, Marcus Carlos. I believe we spoke with Marcus Carlos earlier last season. We had a good chat with him over the course of proceedings in the early rounds of the championship here in the Console Endurance Series. I do remember holding an interview with an MSA driver, and I do believe it to be Marcus Carlos. So, from what I remember, good chap, good bunch of lads over at the MSA Autosports team. Gianluca Zamponi, 4.5 seconds from Yannick Fredericks with the Whale Racing BMW, so that's one to watch there for the fight of P7. Liam Mutz behind the wheel of the AXRL Heat car. Now, to bring this back up, you've always got to hand it off to people who are able to really go above and beyond what the environment around them calls for. Bear in mind, NLRL is, by its nature, hosted primarily by Europeans. We're operating off of Central European Standard Time. Our streams here on TRTN, because we're a British company, we operate off of British summertime, soon to be Greenwich Mean Time. The guys over at AXRL are tuning in to this race from Australia, an 11-hour time gap. As Mutz comes into the pits, he's got his choice of his teammates Ben Siri and Brodie Rollings. All three of these drivers are up at what I think right now is about like I want to say 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning for these guys here. So they are really, really going above and beyond here. We'll cut back to them later on. We see Svenningsson with Milbank in front of him. Cheeseman not too far away. The K1 Esports team still gunning for a solid finish to today's race. Svenningsson on the podium then after the pit from Cas van Veltzen. We had him misidentified as Svennington, but that is a mistake on our end. It's Svenningsson. We'll correct that for the next live stream. Benjamin Hooper, 1.2 seconds from Gianluca Zamponi, who is himself not too far away from Yannick Fredericks. There could be a three-way fight for 7th, but I'd say really pay closer attention to the chances of there being a fight for 8th place coming up very, very soon. We'll stay with those two as and when it arrives. Yellow flags arise for the number 60 car. Even more confounded issues for Thomas Romano with the number 60. I mean, it has been a real tough day here for Team Raceline. How long is the race at the start? Okay, well, this is going to be a can of worms, is it not? Okay, so today's round was planned to be 6 hours. We ran into continued issues over the course of today in organising the stint time. The maximum stint time is supposed to be in and around 70 minutes, as it turns out, because it's the one metric not measured in minutes on the G-Portal servers, of which they didn't inform race control it was this way. It ended up being a case where, oh my word, that's collision there. That was between Marcus Carlos and Thomas Romano. It catches Harry Palmer out, who clashes into Ben Meredith. What on earth is going on here for Thomas Romano? He's created Armageddon down at turn 10. Oh, what on earth is this? Hooper and Zamponi now caught very firmly in that fight. Let's get back on board with Ben Hooper. So you have to catch up with that in a moment's time. Continued trouble now for the 94 further down the road. So we're on board with Benjamin Hooper. So to pick back up on the story here after what on earth happened down at turn 10, really my guess is as good as yours as to what exactly that you could call that besides disaster. But so to pick this back up, the actual event was meant to be 6 hours, and there was issues going on with the stint timer, and G-Portal didn't inform us of the discrepancy between most of the metrics for timing being controlled in minutes, whereas for stint timers it was controlled in seconds. No one was ever told this, it was never clarified anywhere. So, unfortunately, ended up being a case where race control mistakenly gave it the stint timer amount of, I think it was about 70 seconds as opposed to 70 minutes. So it made it to where it was 1 minute and 10 seconds for stint time. That's no way to run a race, so if I had to imagine, and everyone was obviously unhappy about that. We had to reset the grid, we redid qualifying, and then it happened again. Then we were given some software by the folks over at Exclusive, in which we were able to re-piece together the grid based off of qualifying data, and then the race started an hour down to what is now 5 hours of Zolder. But hey, you know what? Following on a history of events like these, last season didn't run the full length either in Imola. That was a red flagged race, but that was because of G-Portal crashing. So it wouldn't be an endurance championship without us having to endure some punishment from G-Portal. We do see continued yellow flags out for the number 60, Thomas Romano, Team Raceline. I mean, it comes to a point here where you've got to start questioning, do you throw the towel in or not? 2 hours, 40 minutes left to go. It can't keep going on like this, can it? It can. So out through turn 4, and Lucien Bianchi boxed on his way down towards the Kleiner chicane. Hooper still in pursuit here of Gianluca Zamponi. Bear in mind, both of them are catching up to that blue BMW up in front. That's the Whale Racing 696 of Yannick Fredericks. So we could be seeing a three-way fight in the near future here for the last of those top 5 positions. Still plenty of time left in today's race as they back themselves up onto Andrew Veldkamp in the 616 Bentley. Out back, you can see Palmer v Fossey, but they're on 2 separate lengths of the race with Zolt Beefgartner next to gain position. It's contact between the pair. It's absolute disaster. You saw that coming from a mile out. Oh my goodness. That's exactly what happened earlier on in today's race to the 111 BMW out of K1 Esports. Now strikes not 1 but 2 cars after Zamponi runs out wide. And it's like you can watch it. I mean, you are literally watching it play out in slow motion, but for these drivers, it had to have been way slower than that. Oh, it's horrid. Oh, the humanity of it all. So that's serious damage for Ben Hooper. He's not going to be particularly happy with the exclusive esports team, but that was, it's like you feel like you can reach your hand in and stop it from happening, but it's just too late for either of them. Zamponi and Hooper into the pit lane. Looking around the field here, we see Sebastian Turner moving over to let Elias Svenningsson by on the way through turn 10 at the Jackie Xbox. See here, moving over, that's Gabriele Fossi, number 33 there with the Freebirds Autosport team, or Freebirds Motorsport team, I should say. And they've also, like the Delava Maria team, very seldom discussed. I always found it quite funny is the missed opportunity with a driver like Alessandro Ferrari on your team to run in the 296. I just find it a little bit, I don't know, I suppose slightly comedic, the fact that it's named after a song closely associated with America. They're in a British car with a German engine with a with a driver with a last name of a famous Italian sports car brand. I just find that a bit funny. That's not me trying to make fun of anyone there. The coincidences were right there. Nonetheless, it's Gabriele Fossi, Alessandro Ferrari and Matteo Gnocchi and the number 33 Aston. They've been on the slow crawl back past the top 20. They're currently just at the back of the top 20 as it stands, 90 laps into today's race. They've been on good hustle throughout. The constant figures in and amongst the fight of the privateers. Catch up with them later on. Jack Giles in 4th place, taking up the slack from Cass van Veltzen out back. See Thomas Romano now accidentally backed up onto the nose of Kelvin Castens as 111. And here is the subject in question. Romano almost defending there. I don't think he intended for that, but what on earth is going on here for Team Raceline? Absolute head loss. So he's alongside Casey Miles and Stefan Nicolai in the number 60. He's the one that caused that incident from earlier on. It was contact between himself and I think it was one of the, it was with Marcus Carlos, the BMW. Watch here, making his way down towards turn 1. Right now, Keanu Geiger rolls on by to let him through. See there, that's Timo de Tosto in the background, so we're going to try and catch on board, pardon me, with the number 119. Just scrolling through the field here to see where the nearest fights could be coming from. One to keep an eye on there, Martin Kramer versus Will Friedman, the 77 NRW Performance Ferrari versus the 787 Exclusive Esports BMW. There could yet still be the discussion in the near future with Levi Warner versus Niels Basler, but those two are on the same team. Can see Maxime Kalin fighting with Leon Geisler. So this is still at the head of the fight here for the Privateers division. Kalin running into some trouble out through turn 10. That invites Leon Geisler in to come side by side down the opening straight. Geisler now up into 14th. Kalin having a tuck in right behind. You can see right behind him, that's Kyle Jenkins. Now having took up the baton from Ben Schiessman. Real trouble though for Callan, trying to keep the Mustang in the clear and narrow. Real buckets of understeer as the track continues to cool down. Kyle Williams catching up in the 789 with Exclusive. Out through turn 3, now on our way to turn 4. Leon Geisler having to roll over to let Kyle Jenkins on through. And thank you very much, says Maxime Callan, as it's brought him right back into the fight with Geisler. Stay on board though with the 51 here with the Sparco CTA Autosports team. They have been a very peculiar bunch to observe over the course of this race. They've been in and out of fights, almost elusive figures for most of these privateer fights at the moment. Right now, they're holding off of the XCL number 789 of Kyle Williams. Dives for the inside on our way into Turlem and snipped the nose off there by the likes of Maxime Callan. We've seen that under Danny Dion's stewardship, it has been very elbows out stuff over the course of today for the number 51 Mustang. Now in the hands of Callan, we're seeing a little bit more of a hesitant drive whilst they find their footing. So we'll cut on with them later on. We're getting towards the halfway mark of this shortened 6-hour race. See, new fight on the way. Harry Palmer versus Zolder Beefgart. Now, this could be one to watch here. The two Mustangs go head-to-head, but we will have to catch up with that later on. Actually, it's trouble for a car we were just watching. The number 51, as it stands, is in peril. And that was Maxime Callan. Now, having dropped further down the line here to 16th. Not entirely sure what's gone on there, but one thing is for certain. There's damage on the nose of the 51. Now having dropped behind Kyle Williams by some way, and Leon Geisler becomes a distant memory from up in 14th place. Real trouble there for the 51 Sparco Mustang. Actually, maybe even more such. No, never mind. I was getting mixed up there. Up the order we can see right now, hanging around the back is Liam Mutz. And you got to hand it to Liam Mutz. I mean, he's been going 3 stints on now in today's race. We can see now having swept over the nose there of the 51. Actually, no. Having swept over the nose of the 51 was the 23 there. That's Levi Warner with Fats GT in the Mustang, trying to open the taps up and away from his teammate Niels Bassler. And he's also looking to try and catch up towards Kyle Jenkins. You can see, though, he's quite a distance up the track at this time. Looking for where the nearest fights on track are happening. Will Friedman versus Martin Kramer. We did speak on this earlier on. But here it is in its fullest view. Out through turn 5. Friedman with the better of the 2 exits. Out through the Kleiner chicane in towards turn 6. Swings high and around the outside of Martin Kramer's number 77 NRW Performance Ferrari. In towards the Turleman box. And he's got that one wrapped up in a nice neat bow. Up to 17th then for Friedman. New fight on the charts here. We saw it for a moment, but now we see its aftermath as Liam Mutz is now up and ahead of Scott Milbank's number 115. I'm seeing some interesting comments in chat there. This is what a attempted 6-hour race does to you. It's what it does to sane men. So Palmer up the road from Beefgardner, right behind him though, looking to get around the pair of them is Hooper. Hooper from down in 19th place, looking to unlap himself from Zolt Beefgardner and Harry Palmer. Seeing the progress now here of Kyle Jenkins having been handed over the keys to that McLaren by his teammate Ben Cheeseman. He's now just managed to unlap himself from Elias Svenningsson, his teammate in the 113. Now on his way out through turn 10. They've really had a mixed bag. I mean, them and plenty of other teams for that matter have been really thrown up against it. The case where those first 2 stints out of Cheeseman were absolute cinema. To put himself up from the back of the field to where he is now is nothing short of a miraculous drive there. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that used to turn water to wine back in the day. So really, really above and beyond there for the 114. Very likely pick of drivers of the day there, Jenkins and Cheeseman. We'll have a more established look at the field, though, before we come to conclusions there. I think it would be naive to just write that one out with 2 hours and 30 minutes left to go. We're seeing a new fight here for 8th place. Niels Bassler versus Kelvin Castins. K1 Esports versus Fats GT. Let's stay on board here with the 111. That's the 114. The 111. Text is too small on the stream deck, so we'll update that one for next time. Oh, boy. I tell you, it has been an interesting day. A very interesting day indeed. So, watching on board with these two. As we hit the race's halfway mark, this is the fight going on for 8th place here. Castins v Bassler. Bassler has been a pretty recognisable name on this grid. It's almost synonymous with the Fats GT team itself. I don't think I've ever seen the two separate from one another. Wherever Fats goes, Bassler follows and vice versa. On the exit of turn 7, you can see up the road there, Jack Giles up and ahead of Maxime Callan. Up through turn 9 we go. Castins still in pursuit for 8th place here off of Niels Bassler. Trouble for Callan, though, on the exit of turn 10. Does force things temporarily 3 abreast, but it does give the opportunity up to Kelvin Castens. He's side by side now with Niels Basler on the run down towards turn 1. Is he going to swing high through turn 1? Yes, he is. Basler backs out. Castens up to 8th. So great stuff there as we pass the halfway mark. Things are hotting back up here in Zolder. A brilliant overtake there by Kelvin Castens. Much to the chagrin of Niels Basler. Looking further around the field to see where our nearest fights could be coming from. Let's go ahead and have a gander about. See what we can find. Saw that Maxime Callum was caught up in the midst of that fight between Castens and Basler. Right now, I believe that fight just gone was among the closest on the field here. A lot of the drivers divided by quite wide gaps. We can see Yannick Fredericks navigating lap traffic, the number 15 Sparco CTA of Monier Chaplet. It's way down through turns 2 and 3. Actually, no, that's the team race line. I keep getting the two mixed up. You guys need to make new liveries. I'm sorry. It's throwing my mind off. That's the... Well, no, it is. No, it is. No, it is the Sparco CTA. Because it's 15 and... it's 15 and 51. Okay. I am stupid. Down towards turn 5. Yannick Fredericks in 5th. Quickly checking back in with Basler and Castens, because while it may have shifted in favour of the BMW, it is not out of the woods just yet. Basler is still close by a little under a second here. We're actually going to catch on board with Niels Basler, because it does give us a pretty good indication as to the state of affairs at large. Actually, we will have to catch on with them later on, because looking down just outside of the top 10, we're on board with Zolt Beefgarner. This is for 12th place on the grid right now, up against Harry Palmer, the 314 just up the road from him there. They catch up to Benjamin Hooper. Out back there you can see is Jörg Masserat and the 777. We'll stay on board though with Beefgartner, part of the Privateer Championship team, the Tempest Motorsports crew. The number 30. It was an ambitious move away from the confines of McLaren over towards Ford. We'll see over the course of this championship, will it ever pay off again? Of course, they won outright in Barcelona. We'll stay on board with Beefgartner. We'll be back in just a moment's time. So Tempest up to 12th there. Left you on board with the sights and sounds of two 5.4 litre V8s head-to-head there. Palmer looks back up for the inside on his run down in towards Sternwacht. Right in the background, you can see Jörg Masserat now running all the way over the grass. Trouble for Zolt Beefgartner. Drops behind Palmer, back down to 13th. Still on board with Beefgartner, but as Jörg Masserat now pokes his nose in the middle of this fight, Harry Palmer runs over the Kleine chicane. So I thought maybe for but a moment the chance was gone. Never say never on the opportunity for these two to get back into a good fight. Down towards Telemann box will stay on board with Tempest Motorsports in their fight against Euro Titans. Down towards turn 8 we go. You can see just up the road there, the number 15 car of Théo Monnier-Chaplet of Sparco CTA. We're on board with Tempest Motorsports' Zolf Beefgartner. Right behind him, Jörg Masserat with NRW Performance, but up in front in the fight for 12th, Harry Palmer of Euro Titans Endurance. Up through turn 10, the two Mustangs totally tunneled in on one another as they head into lap 101. Looking further around the field here, we're over that halfway mark. Frazzy Binks leads in the 788 Bentley. I really do think we are about to see history be made. The first time a Bentley in the history of NLRL has crossed the line in first. We are about to see it. I never thought the day would arrive. Frazzy Binks and Nat Bennett have delivered on what could be the impossible. 2 hours, 23 minutes left to go, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. We see side by side, though, between Beefgartner and Masserat. Masserat is adamant to unlap himself from the confines of the Tempest Motorsports Ford Mustang. Catch up with these guys later on. Looking around the field, we see Marcus Carlos given good company by Martin Kramer in the 77. Svenningsson in third. So K1 on a great start to the season by all accounts. They're putting themselves up on the same pedestal as MSA and for that matter with XCL. Looking at it here, you do have 5 different teams inside of that top 5 at the moment. So you've got Exclusive, you've got MSA, you've got K1 Esports, then you've got Jack Giles with Euro Titans. Him and Cas van Veltzen have been on an absolute warpath in today's race. And then you've got Yannick Fredericks with the Whale Racing team. They're currently on track for a privateer division win on debut. So a fantastic opener for the 696 team. They could be the next Tempest Motorsports. We do remember from last season bringing back up season 1's results, the first and only time in NLRL history, not including the transfer over from GHR, that a privateer has come through and won outright in an endurance race has been that of Brandon Roos and Adam Saunders in the Tempest number 30. That was back when they were with McLaren, and that was at Barcelona, round 3 of last season. Could it be the case then we are seeing the early proceedings to a new privateer outright win out of Yannick Fredericks and his teammates at the Whale Racing team? Only time will tell us different. To bring back up the calendar for this season, it was supposed to be 6 hours today. It'll be shortened down to 5 hours, with Nürburgring being the next full 6-hour race with any hopes. You know, cross your fingers for that one there. That's on the 1st of November. Bathurst returns to the calendar. 4 hours of Bathurst, the 3rd round of the championship on the 15th. Silverstone 6-hour, a brand new 6-hour race in this championship among 3 others over the course of today's race, that otherwise being the Monza and Indy 6 hours later on in the season. Silverstone makes up the 29th of November. Then for the first of our December races and the last race of 2025 in this championship, the Imola 3 hours, the shortest race of the season. Then into 2026, heading into January, the Monza 6 hours, Suzuka in February, Indy in March. A drive-through penalty has befell that of Elias Svenningsson, rocketing to the pit lane there. This is disaster in play for K1 Esports. They were riding high on the successes so far in today's race, over the halfway mark of this 5-hour shortened version of the Zolder 6 hours. Making his way into the pit lane. This has not gone well for the likes of Elias Svenningsson and Jorbe van Herle. It has gone fantastically, though, for Jack Giles and Cas van Veltzen as far as things go right now. Also joining Svenningsson in the pit lane is Kelvin Castens, another K1 Esports car there, the 111 BMW coming in. That does leave only one K1 Esports car left to be in what could be that top 5, as we see Svenningsson has dropped position to not only Jack Giles, but looks to be... Actually, no, Yannick Fredericks is far enough down the field, so it's only one position down for Svenningsson and Van Herle, so... That's something that we tend to forget with these longer form races. The consequences of something like that can usually only result in about 1, 2, maybe 3 positions at a shove. Case in point for Castens, though. He's come into the pits and could be swapping over to his teammate in the 111. And now having dropped position out to Baslier and Warner. Tosto as well. That list is only going to keep going on. The bottom line right now, K1 are out of the top 10 with that 111 car. They still have 2 aces in the hole, though, the 113 and 114, currently 4th and 7th, that being Svenningsson and Jenkins. Right behind there, that's Benjamin Hooper. Now getting the leg up on Yannick Fredericks to unlap himself from 18th. One of the closest gaps at the moment, Jenkins to Warner. That was in and around a second, has now opened up since to 1.2 seconds at the last recorded interval. There could next be that fight for 6th place. Ford versus McLaren, Vatch versus K1. Looking around the field here, we catch back on board with Zolt Beefgartner as right in front of him we can see a very close fight to unlap oneself here, coming from Jörg Masserat on Till Schwering, now taking up the slack from Castens in the 111. Actually, do my eyes deceive? Because I believe I saw a placard come up there very, very quickly. A drive-through penalty now. Thomas Romano, the number 60 Team Raceline car. Road there, Liam Mutz running into some serious trouble past the exit of the Bolderberg Haarspelbocht. The NLRL heat car having dropped behind Benjamin Hooper by some way. It's contact between Romano and Mutz. Someone get that Team Raceline car off the field. What on earth is he doing? I mean, it's normally not in our best interest to go passing judgment any which way, but that was sloppy from the 60. I mean, a blind man could have seen that gap wasn't there. What on earth are we doing here? Mutz won't be happy. I highly doubt the rest of the field's particularly happy with the current reputation of Team Raceline. It has been a bad entry by all accounts for them at this time. Having Romano on the field there, flailing madly into every corner, isn't going to be helping them over the course of this season. So let's catch on board next with the nearest fight on the field. Beefgartner v Schwering at this time. Out through turn 7, in towards turn 8. You can see up the road Jörg Masserat and Harry Palmer. Right now, it could be Three's Company in that fight for 11th place. This is looking to be very exciting here as we head towards the end of the 3-hour mark with 2 hours left to go in today's race. Schwering not too far away at all. Beefgartner, though, runs massively out of line there for his brakes. Whether or not it was intentional for him to dive for the pit lane, he's now found himself in there by consequence. That was very, very sketchy there between him and Schwering. Fortunately, neither of them come out with serious damage. For Schwering, though, he's 1.3 seconds from Palmer. The chances for K1 to fight their way back to the top 10 still remain on the table here. Palmer actually backed up past Masserat. That's really seems to be the age-old adage with the NRW performance team. You can take NRW out of the fight, but you can't take the fight out of NRW. And that's case in point with Jörg Masserat. He's fighting tooth and nail just to unlap himself from down in 25th position. Bear in mind, he's got very little stake involved in the fight further up the order. This is for 11th between Schwering and Palmer. But he's going to get himself in there, and he's going to get his hands dirty. That 777 now up the road from Palmer clears the gap between himself and Schwering. Nothing left to stand in their way. So, this is going to be the next big fight on our hands here. I've got pretty likely mind about it. So let's go and get on board with Till Schwering to get the view on board the 111 on his way down towards the Bolderberg Haarspelbocht. You can see just a measure of some of the madness these drivers have to deal with on this grid when they have to try and navigate through not only cars looking to unlap themselves, but lapped traffic coming up. and then, moreover, try to focus on each other in and amongst a crowd. Out back, you can see there, Saunders and Myrie, the 30 and the 15. Close to one another, but not for position. Further behind them, we can see Carl Martel has been having a pretty stable drive in the 99. They're down in 21st at the moment, though. Whether or not we missed something over the course of that outage, time would tell us different. Out through turn 9 then, we're still on board with K1 Esports' Till Schwering in his fight against Harry Palmer of the Euro Titans Endurance team, the 314 up in front. That blue and red Mustang. Now, I want to pick the brains of the Euro Titans designers because last season they were a pretty prominent sight of just white and blue. What was the spur that brought in the red to the mix? I mean, it is an interesting look for them. It's a sort of new dawn of a new day kind of thing, a new look for the Euro Titans team. So I'll be curious to find out in the coming streams as to what was the deciding factor on this drastic new look. Of course, we've seen redesigns in the past where, you know, K1 Esports is no different from this. They went through a drastic redesign. Oh my word, what on earth was that there by Schwering? I mean, he kind of just cavalier charged into the back end of Palmer. I'm not really sure how you'd call that. Catch up with that discussion later on. Potential fight in the near future here. Jenkins v Warner, 6th place up for grabs there. Thatch versus K1, that could be one to watch. Right now, it seems that a lot of these fights that we're catching on board with don't particularly end well. We have Kramer v Callan, so we're going to try and catch on board with those two. They're incredibly close to one another. We're on board with the 77 and Martin Kramer with NRW Performance down in the Privateers wing. He's joined by Pascal Stoltz and Dennis Kuhlmann. His way out through turn 2 now, I should say, into turn 3. Right in front of him, Maxime Callan, the Sparco CTA number 51. Out through turn 4, Lucien Bianchi boxed, and he's got the run on his way down towards the Kleiner chicane. So is he going to try up the inside here on Callan? Down towards the Kleiner chicane we go. Kramer's got the line for it in the fight for 16th place, up and ahead of Callan. And by the exit of turn 5, he's got that one nipped in the bud there. Fantastic by Martin Kramer. He who dares wins, and such is the case with the 77. He's up to the top 15. Right behind him, though, you can see that is a rampaging Benjamin Hooper. I don't think you can keep him down for long. Out through the tournament box, you can see he's clawed in time there on Callan, and now trying to just escape his line of sight is Kramer. I must say as well, it's also a new look here for the NRW guys. They did undergo a little bit of a makeover, so it seems. See some side-by-side action down at Boulderberg Hirschfeld box. We now see Callan is behind Hooper, so it's really a matter of when and not if that McLaren is on top of NRW Performance's Martin Kramer. Looking around the field, though, just to quickly draw your attention to something potentially going on here. We saw that the number 111 was caught in quite a wad of traffic. Out back, we can see Harry Palmer versus Myrie. Alexandra Myrie there in the number 15. Back in with Maxime Callan in the 51, now having dropped a considerable chunk of time there to Benjamin Hooper. Hooper on a mission here in the 415. There was trouble for the MSA 415 team earlier on in today's race. They're now on the path back to a top 10. Currently in the pits, the number 9 Race Vision car, Norbilan Bele, drops his position there. Potentially the swap back over to either of his two teammates. Gase Bruce, we can see here side by side with Martin Kramer. That's not helped Kramer at all there. The currently being lapped batch GT car has now dropped considerable time between Hupert and Kramer. We are looking at that fight right now for the top 15. We'll stay on board with the attacking car here. Down in 16th place from the pro category, it's Benjamin Hupert in the 415 car. He's joined by Kieran O'Reilly and Louis Bolton over the course of round 1. Right now looking to go toe-to-toe with Martin Kramer with NRW Performance. See if we can catch on board then. Right now we can see from Martin Kramer's point of view, but we want to try and see from the point of view of that 415 car. We can also see that Levi Warner and Kyle Jenkins has quickly become a distant memory at this time. See if we can catch the 415. We can see really close action here, just in efforts to lap the cars around him, Meredith and Callan there from the point of view. See there, Hupert now up past Kramer, so sadly ACC's menu navigation letting us down on this day. He's now 0.3 of a second up the road from Kramer. Would there be a chance for a fight back by NRW Performance's Martin Kramer? That's the real question. Big leap there over the curves. You can see the Ferrari's not willing to follow him all of the distance over turn 5. That puts Benjamin Hupert in good stead to continue his charge through the top 15. Well, that's disappointing that we weren't able to capture the exact extent of that fight. But such is the case when you choose to navigate these menus. Oh, wow, we were only 4 clicks away if we had just gone in the opposite direction. Oh, well. Such is life there. Can't win them all. See, for Maxime Callan, it is a very bizarre position to be in right now. He's got a whole wad of cars in front of him there, all on separate lengths of the race, all of them having unlapped themselves from the 51. Really, that is the case when you have a race of this length on a track this size. You're going to find drivers effectively navigating each other like the walls of a maze. You can see there, we were just watching with Carl Markle, he's 21st. There's Fazzy Binks, who is first. 2 Bentleys, 2 different distances of that race. 696 is into the pit lane, so too is the number 94, so we'll get a look on board here. Yannick Fredericks comes into the pits for the Whale Racing team. You can see how short the run is to their pit box there in the BMW. Also in the pits at the moment, Leon Geisler in the number 94 Majestic Motorsports, or Majestic Racing there. BMW swaps over for Nick Mashk, who we saw start things off here. Nearest gap at the moment, Williams to Palmer. Kyle Williams with the number 789 exclusive esports team there. Only one standing in his way, Alexandra Myrie in the number 15 Sparco CTA McLaren. Let's see if we can go and catch on board, and hopefully we get to do this before he gets the overtake in this time around, with the point of view of Kyle Williams. Now up and alongside very nearly there with Harry Palmer. Alexandra Myrie gets the leg up on the pair of them, now up the road despite being in 28th. Williams and Zamponi have really been up against it over the course of this race. Have seen several occasions of being inside of that top 10. They've been bouncing around, orbiting the last of those top 10 positions. Right now, Harry Palmer is the sentinel of sorts that stands in the way of their next charge back in to the top 10. So we'll see how this one plays out. This is in the fight for 11th place. We're on board with Kyle Williams in the exclusive esports number 789 McLaren. You can see the full telemetry there on your top left. Last lap, 1:30.570. Fastest by personal record, 1:29.107 as they enter lap 113. You can see how much later on the brakes that Palmer is willing to go. There's a lot more confidence to be found out of the Mustangs in the heavy braking zones. And it's this hesitance right now that's keeping Williams from being side by side. But perhaps he's doing this, albeit a little bit tactically, maybe not to get too close to the Mustang or even ahead of it in an inopportune area. He wants to maybe try and extend the move to a roundabout here. I think that's where he's aiming for, is to get a move run and done out through turn 4 just before turn 5, because then you enter a very corner intensive section of track where we know the McLaren has great maneuverability for. It's very hard to strategize on a track this small. 2.5 miles is not a lot when it comes to motor racing. Williams v Palmer, they're incredibly close to one another. These are two drivers very closely matched for ability here. Machines that accentuate their driving styles. The Mustang is working very nicely here for Harry Palmer. The McLaren working very nicely here for Kyle Williams. Right now, though, we could be seeing the head of that fight as we run out of turn 9 down towards turn 10. Could we be seeing some side-by-side action here between Williams and Palmer? Just a little too far away. Moreover, he knows in the heavy braking zones, there's just a little less to be found out of that 720S. Now, less than ideal exit of turn 10 is only going to continue to perpetuate this problem. He's got the pace to stay with, and there could even be the suggestion that he's got the pace to overtake, but he needs to find the opportunity. That is one of the more unique aspects of a track like Zolder. You can have the pace, but it's really a case of you have what it takes to get the move done. Fate can operate in very cruel ways for these drivers, and we've seen it so too many times today. Down towards turn 5, a less than ideal exit there. You can see that is what the run of the corner should look like. Kyle Williams now elevating this around the outside at turn 6 on the run towards turn 7. Off in the background there, that is Thomas Romano in the number 60. Holds short there for the arrival of these drivers, and moreover, to allow Kyle Williams without any problems whatsoever to continue to hold on to a newly found 11th position. Great stuff there by Williams. I highly doubt this is the last we'll see of Palmer, but with a very close by 788, he will be given the blue flags and the incentive to move over there. Binks alongside as we make our way through Jochen at turn 9, now down towards Jackie Xbox at turn 10. You can see tucking in behind the 788 was the 314. That solidifies for the time being Williams' tenure of 11th place. We'll catch on with these drivers in a moment's time. We take a look around the field here. We see that Tobias Sievert's giving good company to Jack Giles in the 313. Down towards turn 10 we go, very close to one another, mind you. 787 on a slow but eventual comeback drive. They're inside the top 20. Given where things were earlier in today's race, I'd say this is still an opportunity to bounce back. And Sievert actually looking to unlap himself from Jack Giles. It's all very nearly contact between the pair of them through turn 1. Going up the inside. I mean, he's attacking like this is fourth position here, but this is the great enthusiasm we're seeing out of Sievert, knowing that Nick Mashka's not too far up the road, so a chance to gain position is definitely still on the charts from here. But he's not going to allow any driver with a blue flag to their side to keep him from his objective. It's a man on a mission. On board, though, right now with Jack Giles following Tobias Sievert down towards turn 5. Can see that difference in mentality here. The BMW is just able to slam fire those two curves. The Ferrari does have to tiptoe a little bit, but we've seen when employed well, those mid-engine cars can absolutely carve through turn 5 with very little issue. Case in point, Kyle Williams from earlier on in his McLaren found that perfect line to get up and ahead of Harry Palmer. Now continuing to search around the field here for the nearest fight for position on track. We did see earlier the fight between Williams and Palmer, but that has since simmered itself down here. Williams now 3.3 seconds and growing up the road from Harry Palmer in the 314 Euro Titans Mustang. Nothing right now particularly spelling fight in today's grid at this length. 3 hours in, still a long way from the checkered flag, so the opportunity still lays on the table here. Following on board with Tobias Sievert after unlapping himself from Jack Giles, we now can see there's no one standing in the way between himself and the 94 Majestic Racing BMW of Nick Mashk up in front, 2.5 seconds and closing. So we'll stay on board here with Tobias Sievert as we recount after the 3-hour mark the current standings. Looking here into the privateers division, the 787, Sievert, Friedman and Gornheimer. Now, after 3 hours of racing here in Zolder, Fazzy Binks continues to lead. Marcus Carlos into the pit lane. Jack Giles in 3rd. Elias Svenningsson in 4th. Kyle Jenkins in 5th. Niels Bassler in 6th place there. Carlos Diesch in 7th. Spencer Brown in 8th, Till Schwering 9th, and Kyle Williams rounds out the top 10. Then looking towards the top 20, we have Harry Palmer in 11th, Byron Forrest in 12th, Sebastian Plotnik in 13th, Benjamin Hoopert in 14th, Martin Kramer 15th, Maxine Callan in 16th, Adam Saunders 17th, Nick Mashk in 18th. Soon to be caught by the man on screen here That being Tobias Sievert, 19th place, rounding out the top 20. Ben Meredith, the 315, still yet to have given over to any of his teammates there at the Euro Titans Endurance team. Carl Martel then into the discussion of the top 30 in 21st with the Malois Racing number 99. Liam Mutz, another driver yet to have given over to his teammates. He's with the AXRL Heat team in 22nd. Palmer into the pits though, just to quickly highlight something going on the field right now. Palmer into the pits, so that gives much more credence to the position for Kyle Williams. So further down the line then, Liam Mutz 22nd, Andrew Velkamp 23rd, Scott Milbank in 24th, Jörg Matter at 25th, Salvatore Bolgetto in 26th, Gay Spruce in 27th, Alexandra Myrie 28th, Keanu Geiger 29th, and Thomas Romano in 30th. I believe they're 3 DNFs over the course of today's race. Right now, though, we can see that imminent fight, one that we've been waiting for here between Maschke and Sievert, is only but moments away from starting, with 2 hours of racing left to go here in Zolder before the end of a very troubled but eventual round 1 of the championship here in season 2 of the Console Endurance Series. We're far from over. Out through turn 7. On the run now towards turn 8. Maschke could be vulnerable in a moment's time here. Sievert has not shown any signs of slowing down. Strategy doesn't currently seem to stand in his way. Into the pit lane goes Carl Martel, so it seems there. Believe that to have been. Yes, that was the case there. Carl Martel into the pit. So too is the 415, now emerging. Actually was going to be emerging there, but Louis Bolton now drops behind Maschke and Sievert. This is now for the top 15, so this is the slow rise back to a solid result, and wasting no time there. Gets up and around the outside of Nick Maschke. Tobias Sievert is a man on a mission. So it wasn't actually for the top 15. I'm a little confused there. I think that's because the standings started bugging out a little bit there. Out through turn 4. Sievert now up to 17th. For Maschke, though, he still finds himself relatively close to Sievert, but we've seen that difference in pace right now. It's a case of whether or not Maschke can find it within him to fight that position back. 117 laps strong now for the Majestic Racing team, the almost successor chapter of spontaneous racing from last season. Nick Maschke back behind the wheel of a BMW in the Privateers division. We'll catch up with them later on. See Till Schwerin caught up behind a wad of cars here. Adam Saunders versus Kieran Rodd for control of 14th place on the field. Let's get on board with these two, as this is looking to be a very exciting fight amongst the two Mustangs. Looking on board here, Adam Saunders and then Kieran Rodd. So let's get on board the attacking point of view here. We can see exiting the pits out in front there. That I believe to be, yes, the 99 of David Tangway. Now down to 25th with Malois Racing. Blue flags shown for Kieran Rodd right behind him there. You can see that is the K1 Esports number 111 of Till Schwerin in the BMW. Looking as to where the closest fight on the fields are coming from. I believe this is one among them. I believe we've had a little bit of trouble with the overlay here. We actually can't seem to get back onto the drive point of view, nor can we navigate the menus properly. Do just give us one moment. We'll be back in a sec. So thank you for bearing with us there. That's incredibly annoying, but every now and again ACC, what it likes to do when we're in this menu here, it likes to soft lock us out of being able to navigate beyond using the triggers to blindly scroll through the field. So that was very annoying. I'm sure plenty of streamers will be able to tell you the same problem exists here on console. Don't really know of any fixes to that, but oh well. I'd say everything's been a little bit ramshackled when it comes to G-Portal and ACC itself and all manner of thing. It has been a round, one of the rounds of all time. We're on board at the moment with Jack Giles, second place in today's race. Pazzy Binks leads in the 788. So before the game soft locks us again, let's get on board with the cars proper. See there, getting up on the inside. It's both Adam Saunders and David Tangway there on Keanu Geiger with Black Nitro Racing down in the Privateers division. Just a little under 2 hours left to go in today's race. Looking around the field then for where the nearest fights on the track are coming from. Liam Mutz now still up and against the fight here with Maxine Callan, who has a stop-go 30-second penalty for the number 51 Sparco CTA. We can see up the road as well on a very close share of the track there, Nick Mashk and Jack Giles. Right now for position, we're a little starved for options as we close in on the final hour and 50 of today's race. Callan serving their pit lane stop-go 30-second penalty as we speak. Closest positions we're seeing here, Mashk to Sievert, 6.3 seconds. But as we saw that move from earlier on, the chances of him catching back up to Sievert are, relatively speaking, quite slim. Sharing the same stretch of the track here, the Whale Racing number 696 of Carlos Dish, number 15 of Alexandra Myri. Up the road, we can see what I am definitely having a look here. Kyle Jenkins is in a very close stead for position. Let's go and catch on board with those two at this time. 0.9 of a second between himself and Niels Bassler. The sun slowly setting beyond the horizon here. Could we be seeing the chances of perhaps even dusk racing by the end of today's race? I would not rule it out. An hour and 49 minutes left to go would definitely put us towards that 8 to 9 o'clock mark here. So that sun would be definitely quite beyond the horizon here in Belgium. A little spot of night racing to bring us to the end of what has been a very frustrating day for a lot of people, but fortunately the show has gone on. Still on board then with Kyle Jenkins. The 1:14, 1.1 seconds from Niels Bassler for the last of those top 5 positions as the track starts to be illuminated with the golden hue of the setting sun here in Belgium. We could be in for a spot of night racing before the end of round 1. Stay on board with the 1:14 for just a moment's time. Drive-through penalty for Liam Mutz in the number 3 car. Trouble for NLRL Heat down in 20th place. Also see too far from one another Bjorn Egil Kalseth, Jack Giles, 8.6 seconds and narrowing between the two, so that would be one to potentially keep an eye on later down the line as we enter the final handful of stints in today's race. An hour and 46 minutes left to go as the sun is setting here in Belgium. We're on board with Niels Bassler. Now the second half of that fight we were watching earlier on as Kyle Jenkins slowly reels in the times here on that number 123 Frats GT car. Niels Bassler behind the wheel on that 123. He's joined by John Williams for the duration of this race. That area of the track now on the exit of Terleman box it has become dreaded by a lot of these drivers. Way too many cases we've seen today, drivers running out wide and slamming into what is effectively a pinball ramp of a tyre wall and careening across the track. I mean, we saw the worst of it much earlier on too. The McLarens slammed into one another there. That was really quite something. Now, I wanted to discuss something that crossed my desk some time ago, since we're in a bit of a slump here before the final stint of the race today. And there was a bit of news that come across the ERS systems, so the sort of soft hybrid to mild hybrid systems we see across the World Endurance Championship and IMSA Sports Car Championship is set to become mandated. And now this would throw under the bus certain brands, namely Aston Martin and their currently hybridless Valkyrie. And I wanted to discuss this point because I get the feeling, why is the FIA, and by contrast IMSA, in what could definitely be one of the most profitable, if not one of the most bountiful times to be a sports car manufacturer in the world of endurance racing, the easiest time to become a prototypes team, are they stifling the creativity of it all? Is it not kind of partially encouraged with the very existence of Le Mans Hypercar as a category that innovation should be something strived for rather than kept under tight lock and key? It makes me wonder, what is the point in having it to where you can't run, to where you can run a hybridless car if you're just going to remove the option entirely? Aston Martin managed, and they took home P2 at the Petit Le Mans this year. They most recently got second place at a 10-hour race up against hybrid machinery. It doesn't make me think they're doing this deliberately to throw Aston Martin under the bus, but it's kind of hard to see it any other way, especially given its timing. We're seeing here an incredibly close fight. This is for 13th place. Kramer versus Saunders and Rod. 2 Mustangs and a Ferrari on their way down towards turn 7. We'll stay on board, though, with the man leading this charge in the number 77 NRW performance car, Martin Kramer, up against it here in the fight for 13th. Moreover, we've been told as well of potential introductions of further success ballasts in the world of the I can't remember if it was specifically IMSA Sports Car, if it was specifically WEC, but it is seemingly being introduced nonetheless. Now, success ballast can work, and sometimes it can not work. I think one of the best working examples we've seen over the years has been the British Touring Car Championship. But then you've got to consider the scope of it. It's touring cars, and it's a difference between... Oh, never mind. We'll actually catch up with that in a bit there. Switchback by Kramer on Saunders. My word. And it invites Rod in to put it nearly free abreast, but it's contact between the two Mustangs. Careening across the nose there of Martin Kramer was Kieran Rod, and Adam Saunders gets up into 13th place. Martin Kramer now tucks in behind the Mustang of the Tempest Motorsports team. So I have to catch up on the discussion of potential future WEC regs in a moment's time here, because we're right back into red-hot action, much to the chagrin there and infuriated 314 of Kieran Rod right now behind the Bentley on your screens. That's David Tangway in the 99 Malois racing car. Tangway looking for the inside to try and unlap himself from these two here. Saunders takes command there of 13th place, has took the baton and is running with it. He's now opened it up to about a second between himself and Martin Kramer's Ferrari. That fight for 13th quickly dying in the water. Here it's contact up the road between his teammate Jörg Masserat. Seemingly there. My mind does not deceive me. I'm pretty sure there was contact up the road there. I saw a car pitch in way harder than it ought to have. Kramer right now up against it with Tangway trying to get around him. He's not going to be giving him much respite here. He's going to be attacking for it like it's its very own position. Bear in mind the consequences therein. Not too far up the road is a recently begrudged 777 of Jörg Masserat. Tangway's not wasting any time. Up the inside goes the 99 of David Tangway. It's been a great opening, though, for the Malois racing team. Even though they've been up against quite unstable circumstances, they've been able to work quite well as a unit. And I'd say, given the circumstances coming up later on in the season, there'll be plenty of opportunities to turn this all around. If they can get even one solid formation in qualifying, I do not see it impossible for Malois Racing to challenge for race leads, if not race wins, by the end of this season. That's not just wishful thinking, that's just basic fact. You see here Kramer up against it now with Rod on his tail. What strikes me is as a sudden supporter here of the Malois Racing team is mostly on account of the fact it's the newest team to be in the Pro Championship. The reason that they're in there, to be part of the Pro Championship, you either have to be a sizable esports organisation or you have to be league representatives, such as the case why AXRL Heat competes out of Pro instead of in the privateers, despite being a single car entry. Oh my word, you see there the quantum state of matter on the Black Nitro car. That's Fabian Zolder seemingly phasing in and out of this plane of existence there. I mean, there's Ping, and there's whatever intergalactic warfare is going on inside of his router. I mean, I thought my router was done. Oh my goodness. I mean, he's time traveling at this point. Is that even industry regulated? Rod looking for the inside there, backs out of it on better intuition. The 314 slowly gauging the metal of the 77 of Martin Kramer. We've seen there one suggestion as we're still watching on board the fight of 14th. Rod looking up the inside down towards the Kleiner chicane. The Mustang's got the run for it. What is the judgment here by Kramer? Earlier on the brakes, let Rod run over two of those curves and stay with him because he's got the run in towards turn 6. So he's played that one very clever there. He's let Rod take the shallower line, knowing it's going to cave his suspension. Down towards turn 7 we go. We can see up the road David Tangway getting very close to the back end of Jack Giles in the 313. Let's cut away from these two here as their battle seems to be at a wrap here. We can see just the state of... I mean, that's Ping in the 4 figures, surely. I think it's a bit wishful saying that there's a 21 ping here for Zobjak. I mean, that's going to be going up like the decimeters at Chernobyl. That's just going to go 2 figures, 3 figures, 4 figures, 5 figures. It's over. So looking around that field, Byron Forrest right up to the back end right now of Kyle Jenkins. So to pick back up on the discussion from earlier And it was one interesting point raised there by K1 Jupiter. If you think about it, WEC talk a lot about hypercars being more hybrid and eco-intensive. It's not a particularly good look when you have a V12 looking about winning, if not getting podiums. I mean, we've still got Bahrain left to go before we see anything concrete out of Aston Martin's endeavours to take home podiums in WEC, but we know they're capable of it plenty enough if the Petit Le Mans was not already a shining example of their more recent development of the Valkyrie project. We have just seen as well the 51 Maxime Callin brought the yellow flags out through turn 10, then out in the pit lane. So could that be the end of the line for the 51 of the Sparco Autosport team? Watching here with Byron Forrest in that 119, they still stand upon the chance of being in the top 10. And I'll be honest, if they can turn this around to a top 10, bravo to the 119. Already, the Malois racing team are in pretty good stead as far as things have gone over the course of today's race. They've been really up and against it over the course of today. I mean, the 99 was definitely their ace in the hole for the longest time here, but over the last couple of stints, it has all come apart at the seams. They're now down in 23rd, chasing right now Jack Giles. Their nearest position, though, would be Jörg Masserat just in front of Giles and chasing him himself up past Saunders. Because who they're really after is Scott Milbank in 21st. Tanguay looking to get around here. Now on the inside of Jack Giles. I don't think the Ferrari was expecting that, but he hands it right back to him. Back up on the inside. A great switch back there on Tanguay. Tanguay will not be particularly happy with this one. I can imagine that much. For the 99. Martin Kramer into the pit lane. In the 77. Very close gap here, Schwering v Williams, so this could be one to watch. We're going to catch on board with these two on their way down towards the Kleiner chicane. We'll get on board the defending point of view of Till Schwering. Right now has the 789 for company on the exit of the Kleiner chicane. Mario Reutiès moves over there with the Fats GT number 323 car to let these two come rolling on through at Butte Curve at turn 6. Let's get on board then with the defending car. The number 111 of K1 Esports on board with Till Schwering. This is the fight for 9th place we're up against here. And looking at it, right behind him, there is Kyle Williams. He's been a man on a mission. We've seen his endeavours over several moves for position in the last hour. This could be one among them on his way down towards the Boulderberg Harschfeld-Bocht at turn 8. Watching here over the rear view of the 111. Down in towards turn 10, you can see him trying to poke his nose just anywhere that a gap might exist. He's that constant pressure he's trying to slap onto the 111. We also see a drive-through penalty for Stefan Nicolai in the 60, the number 60 race line car. Out through turn 1, better of the two exits there for Williams. Puts himself alongside Schwering on his way down towards turn 2. Then comes turn 3 at Canal. Williams tucks back in behind. Behind them there you can see Sievert and Reutiès on two separate lengths of the race, 15th and 27th. Out through turn 4 we go then at the Lucien Bianchi box. Williams will be to the outside, so does he try for something very, very brave here on Till Schwering? He is going for it. You can see later on the brakes, he's going to carry it first to the outside, then to the inside. It's contact between Williams and Schwering at turn 5. Oh no. I so thought we were going to be there in the chances to see both of these drivers side by side through a very precarious section of the track. We never thought it possible, but oh, one tap and that's all it took. Schwering now down to 9th place. Cheeseman in 10th. So K1 Esports on the 5th row. Mario Reutiès, the next victim of the pinball wall on the exit of Turleman. That's even more trouble for the 323. Passing them up there, Nick Maschke and Bjorn Egil Kalseth, the two BMWs on their way down towards Boulderberg Harschfeld-Bocht. Kieran Rodd not too far up the road here from Tobias Sievert. This could be one to watch, the fight of 14th place between the 314 and 787. Now, the next thing that I'd like to discuss
was the more recent drama having gone on at the United States Grand Prix Sprint. Apparently, trouble for McLaren. I want to introduce this point now. It may not be entirely relevant, but I do see this term bounced across a lot in the world of Formula One, especially when discussing McLaren as a team right now, and that's the term papaya rules. Personally, I'm of the opinion papaya rules are just not a thing. McLaren have been historically known for being one of the worst teams to strategize. They just, whenever they get a fast car, it seems like clockwork. They forget any and all ability to prioritize one over the other. It's so flip-flop that fans see it as bias. I'm of the opinion that it is nowhere near the height of bias we've seen in the past, nor is it anywhere near such a case of a more recent account, such as when Ferrari were prioritizing Fernando Alonso. And I think personally papaya rules just isn't a thing. I think it's made up by people trying to push a narrative, and it's just a case McLaren can't strategize. That it's as simple as that. That is the be all and end all. That is the truth nuke, as it were. It's a case where every time they've been quick, they can't put one driver over the other. They just don't have it in them to do that. They did this back in 2007, and guess who came swinging through at the last possible second? Kimi Raikkonen. Watching here, Tobias Siebert up on the inside of Kieran Rod. Oh my goodness, how did he not make contact there with the 3-1-4? That was ballsy by the 787, but fortune favours the brave. Oh my, that is childish. Look at that there. Gets out in front of him, wiggles his back end in his face, effectively putting his thumbs on his ears and saying, no, 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 no. He's got past him. That is absolutely, that is brilliant. Oh my word. Proper hooliganism from Siebert there. That is really pushing the, that's pro-tier rage baiting is what we're seeing there in esports. I mean, how do we manage that in sim racing in a situation like this? So, Zenex Yeet asking, what is the fastest lap of the race so far? I believe that is currently still in the hands of the race leaders. We take a look around here. Jack Giles versus Jorby van Herle. So, we'll have to catch on with your question in a moment's time, because we are on for a fight here for the podium position. Jack Giles versus Jorby van Herle. Let's see if we can get on board with Van Herle. If we catch the fastest lap, we will let you know. But having a look through here, you can see as well, Fazzy Binks with the fastest lap right now, 1:28.207. 1:28.207. Let's get on board then with Jorby van Herle. I want to point this out for the duration that we have the graphic up there. It's actually Svenningsson. So with great apologies there to Elias Svenningsson. We've been misspelling his name as Svennington. I believe there was one typo and that led to a chain reaction of events. We do seem to recall him being saved as Svennington at one point, perhaps an autocorrect. Out through Turnerman we go then. This is for the fight of the last of those podium positions, so a lot riding on the line here for Giles and Van Herle. With an hour and a half left to go in today's race. Down towards turn 8, I should say, Oldenburg, Harshville, Bock. Oh, I tend to forget that Svenningson's in chat as well as Personal 2928. Down towards turn 10 we go then. You can see being backed up onto a monolithic fight there. We can see among it Jörg Masserat and David Tanguay fighting for 22nd. We're watching at the moment the fight for third place between Van Herle and Giles on their way down towards turn 1. Later on the brakes there, good ambition by K1 Esports. Yellow flags are out right now, and the number 51 in trouble. That's the Sparco Autosports car. We can see a massive piling of cars here, nearly 3 wide amongst these drivers here. Catching up into the fray is Jack Giles. You can notice a little bit of hesitance here for Jorby van Herle. As you can see, side by side was Masserat and Tanguay. Tanguay almost squeezing Masserat down to 23rd. Past the exit of Lucien Bianchi box, down towards the Kleiner chicane, turn 5. You can see big leaps there over the curves. This is the real fracture point for any lap here in Zolder. Van Herle playing things a little bit hesitantly, because getting up into a traffic jam of this size is not going to be doing his car any favours. You can see being stuck in that partial aero wash behind Giles isn't helping his manoeuvrability. It's in fact increasing his chances of spinning out. And in this section of the track, that is the last thing you want to do, is run wide or spin.
Down through turn 8 we go. You can see up the road there, that's Scott Milbank in the 115, another K1 Esports car in the roster. We're still on board with the 113. Very, very close here to being on that podium. 128 left to go.
What a sight, really. I mean, that's very relaxing. For as relaxing as being in a 4-litre twin-turbo supercar barreling around a corner at 120 miles an hour can be. Look at this train of cars here. The 51 you can see up front there, that's Maxine Callin, then Scott Milbank, David Tangway looking to potentially get into arms here for position in a moment's time. We can see following in their wake is Jack Giles and Jorbe van Heuler. Very nearly clipped across the backside there was Van Heuler. Milbank with a drive-through penalty. Van Heuler has a little stab of oversteer and he's dropped time massively to Giles. That now sitting at around a second. He's tucked in behind David Tangway's Bentley. We can see the 115 of Milbank now stands in between Giles and Van Heuler on the exit of turn 8. Now in through turn 9. This is how narrow the track is. I don't think we give it too much credit for that factor. We do say that it is pretty narrow, but very rarely do you get to see the scale firsthand. But at its widest, I mean, it's about 3 to 4 car widths. And I'd say that's here on the opening straight, on the exit of turn 1 into turn 2, and then possibly through turn 3 into turn 4. But that's about as wide as it gets here. See, rejoining the field, there's Liam Mutz with the AXRL Heat team. The number 3 accidentally finds himself in between these two for the fight of third place. Now on the exit of turn 3. Van Heuler trying to edge his way to the left-hand side of the track to get as much of the line there through Lucien Bianchi box. As we see there, Mutz re-emerges ahead of Jörg Masserat. Those two in a fight for 21st place. So I'm told of a bit of an ongoing crisis. Of course, it's a bit of a pain to get into the server right now. We're not entirely sure as to why that is. It could be due to the amount of connections currently in store. Gets a little bit confused and a little bit belligerent when anyone tries to introduce themselves to it. It's why it takes us so long to get back in whenever we have technical difficulties. It's really a case of trying to jumpstart an old rusty chainsaw, as it were, is the greatest analogy one can think of when it comes to getting back into this server. And that seems to be a real pressing factor right now for AXRL Heat, as they've now been racing for what is nearly 5 hours with the same driver, Liam Mutz, who, by the way, has been racing in the early hours of the morning over in Australia. Really starting to feel the pronounced effects of it. Still watching, though, that fight for third. Giles versus Van Heuler. Let's have a look around the field, and hopefully the menu doesn't soft lock us like it did the last time out. We see those two are the closest fight up in that top 10. We can see further down the line a close fight going on between Mutz and Masserat. We saw that for 21st. In fact, it's not too far away from us at this time. Alexandra Myri also in a close fight there by less than a second to Mario Reutias for 26th on track. But as the furthest fight of the field will stay on board with our two here on the back end of the podium. Giles v Van Heuler now backed up behind David Tangway's Bentley, as he too is set to reunite with another Bentley, the 616 of Kevin Quain. Big shake there for Giles. That might just be what Van Heuler needs. Squeaks his way to the inside there. Into turn 6, up the inside. Then will hold ground in towards turn 7. Could that be up to third? Yes, it is for Jorbe Van Heuler. A little bit of a knock there from Giles past the entry to turn 7's complex. Now on the exit, though, Van Heuler up to third. Brilliant, brilliant stuff by Jorbe Van Heuler in the 113. .313 still right behind him. We'll see if we can catch on board here with Jack Giles. The second part of this fight, we can see just quickly that fight between Jörg Masserat and Liam Mutz. Let's see if we can catch on board with Jack Giles now in the attacking position with Euro Titans in that 313. He's with Cas van Veltzen. And those two have been fantastic over the course of this race, and that's the same story for Jorbe Van Heuler and Elias Svenningsson.
over the course of round 1. Bear in mind, with an hour and 23 minutes still left to go, there's a lot more still on the charts that we haven't yet found or haven't yet seen, so don't go anywhere. We're far from over 142 laps into today's race. You can see the sun illuminating turns 3 and 4 as it sets beyond the horizon here in Hoyston Zolder. We do have a yellow flag. It's for one of the Fats GT cars down at the Kleiner chicane, that being the 323 at this time. Currently, they've got back running just as the run into turn 6 appears. For these drivers, they're just out of their line of sight. More trouble for Giles, though. I will say he is having a lot more troubles than last over the course of turn 5 at the Kleiner chicane. Seems to be an area of real stern trouble for the Ferrari. As for the fight of Mutz v Maserat, currently about 0.4 of a second there between the AXRL car and the NRW performance car. You can see them in the background tucked in behind Tobias Sievert in the 787 exclusive BMW. In fact, if we try to get a look over the rear view, will we be able to see those two on their run down into the Jackie Xbox? Yes, we can. We can see that still holding his nerve there. The 21st is Liam Mutz. Faster on that last lap. Jorge van Herle, finally with some fresh air in his lungs, has been able to open the taps on the 113, much to the chagrin of Jack Giles and Cas van Velzen, having lost out on the podium. Will strategy re-invite them to come and have a go for a podium today? An hour and 21 minutes against the clock, only time will tell. Now up and ahead of David Tangray, we can see Jorge van Herle quickly escaping. NXE asking, how's it going in gold class? By that, do you mean pros or privateers? We don't have a gold class. I'm assuming privateers, because if I'm not mistaken, you're Zen Vitus with the Race Vision team. So in terms of the privateers, yes, okay, so yeah, there we go, privateers. In terms of the privateers championship right now, leading the charge in class, Carlos Disch with the Whale Racing team. Then second, Sebastian Plotnik with Race Vision Motorsports, and Adam Saunders in third with Tempest. Tyler Vermack in chat here. Hello, based on what I could make of the Discord chat, what have I missed so far and what position are the XCL cars in? Well, I'm glad you asked, because let's get a look with an hour and 20 minutes left to go of the grid at large. Starting us off, the specific discussion as requested there for Exclusive Esports. They find themselves at the front of the pack in the 788 Bentley. Fazzy Binks and Nat Bennett lead that charge by a country mile, 145 laps strong. Then further down the line for the exclusive team, the nearest car being the number 789. That's Kyle Williams down in 12th place. Then down to 14th for Tobias Sievert. Then further down the line, I believe that's all for the time being for the exclusive esports team. But looking at it on a wider scale here, let's get a look. Fazzy Binks leads the charge ahead of Bjorn Egil Kausif. Jorge van Herle most recently made his way up to third. We can see trouble there. That was with Mario Reutiers. We'll see where that stacks him up in a moment's time. So Van Herle up to third. Jack Giles with Euro Titans down to fourth. You can see now in between him is the lapped car of David Tangray with the Malois Racing team. Carlos Disch, of course, leading the Privateers division and in fifth overall with the Whale Racing team ahead of Spencer Brown in the 23 Fats GT car. John Williams in the 123 Fats GT car makes seventh place. Till Schwering in eighth ahead of Byron Forrest in ninth with the Malois Racing team number 119. Very good job by those guys, by the way. They started at the back of the field today after trouble with Stintgate. The 119 now into the top 10. Ben Cheeseman, another story there. The K1 number 114 car started from the pit lane and is in 10th right now with an hour and 19 left to go. They're currently looking to actually clash for position here. So we are seeing this fight for ninth between Byron Forrest and Ben Cheeseman. These are two very, very competent pack fighters in their own respects. They've cut their teeth on multiple championships across various different disciplines. We'll see what they can do here when they go head-to-head for ninth place. Down into the Turleman box. We'll stay on board with these guys as we recount the rest of the field. Sebastian Plotnik with Race Vision Motorsport finds themselves on a division podium, but 11th overall. They're ahead of Kyle Williams in 12th. Adam Saunders on a division podium with Tempest Motorsports. The number 30 is 13th overall and ahead of Tobias Sievert with the 787 exclusive BMW in 14th. Kieran Rodd rounds out the top 15 ahead of Nick Mask with Majestic Racing, the number 94 in Division 4th, but in 16th overall. Dennis Kuhleman in 17th, Louis Bolton in 18th, Ben Meriden from 19th, and David Tangway in 20th, Liam Mutz in 21st, Scott Milbank in 22nd, Salvatore Borgetto with the Delave Maria team in 23rd, and ahead of Kevin Quain in 24th. Rounding out the top 25, right there is Turner in I believe that to be, I want to double check the name here. We never want to get these things wrong over the course of this broadcast. That's the 777 NRW Performance car, one of two listed, and that's Tobias Turner down in 25th. Alexandra Myrie in 26th. We are seeing here some very good fighting side by side between Byron Forrest and Ben Cheeseman. In the meantime here, this is all playing out for the course of 9th place. Cheeseman getting up past Byron Forrest, past turn 4. Very, very well done there. The fight definitely still on for 9th place in today's race. We'll stay on board here with the Malois Racing number 119. Still looking to fight things back for 9th place on the field. Further down the line then, past Tobias Turner, we have Alexandra Myrie in 26th. Mario Reutias with recent troubles has now put the 323 down to 27th and ahead of Maxine Kalin, and rounding up the top 29 as we are now down another car from 30 earlier on today is Stefan Nicolai in the number 60 Team Raceline car. Drive-through penalty for Carlos Diche, so this could be quite dramatic here in his efforts to maintain that security of the Privateers Championship lead out of round 1. Get back on board though with Byron Forrest in that fight for 9th place. As they exit Boulderberg Haarspelbocht, we can see that Ben Cheeseman, much like a similar move by his teammate Jobbe van Heulen, has took the position and ran with it. Now a second up the road from the 119. Pushes the Malois Racing team to the back of the top 10, but given where they started today's race, I don't think they'll be complaining too much. I mean, they will, because obviously they qualified higher than they were given because of stint gate, but besides the point. Or not besides the point, it's still an important thing, you know what I mean. 1 hour, 16 minutes, 16 seconds left to go. The sun is going down here in Belgium. I think we've said that too many times now. Can the sun hurry up and actually get beyond the horizon so I can say it's a night race? So that concludes one of the nearest fights on track at the moment. Let's get a look around the field. So, Tyler Vermaak, to educate you on the case that is Stintgate, where do I start? Well, as G-Portal operates, most of its time figures are given and coded in minutes. All of this except for maximum stint time, which is coordinated in seconds. G-Portal doesn't make this clear to the people coordinating their servers, and as such, the race control group thought that they set the stint limit to 70 minutes, being an hour with a 10-minute interlude, giving them at least 5 minutes either side of it to come in to the pit lane. Instead, it was set to 70 seconds, which is a minute and 10 seconds. You see here, Jack Jar was very close to Kevin Quain. More on this story. So it ended up being a case where the race was restarted after qualifying because of this recent discovery, because the drivers were told they only had a minute and 10 seconds by the game per stint. Of course, that's no way to run a 6-hour race. And so we went and did this all over again, but as it turns out, G-Portal did not refresh the new files given to them by race control. So we ended up in another situation where we had done another qualifying and it ended up on the grid with another minute and 10 seconds. And so, after much frustration, there was an appeal sent out by race control to try and reach out for help in reconstructing the grid based off of its qualifying data. Then, stepping in to help us were the folks at XCL, who lent some of their software that they use for making customized grids. They then used this to form the basis based off of qualifying data submitted to SimGrid via the files from the server itself to repiece the grid back to normal. However, several overlaps in data led to plenty of the teams that had otherwise qualified in very solid positions on the grid, for example Tempest Motorsports, who qualified 5th, to start from the back. This led to obviously widespread frustration, but ultimately this was a case of something massively out of the realm of control of race control themselves. Since none of us know the specifics on code, we only know how to make very small
minor changes to it, usually in the way of coding in new drivers. This was a completely foreign piece of software. Moreover, it was a case where, again, down to a coding level, we just couldn't tell the difference. More on that later on, because there's major trouble down at turn 1. The 414 and the 51 come into contact with one another. That's one of the MSA cars. That's Bjorn Egil Kalseth in second place. Came into contact with Maxine Callan in the 51 Sparco CTA Autosports Mustang. Right now, looking at it, doesn't look like too much damage, if any at all, for Bjorn Egil Kalseth. So he's able to keep running in the 414, but it has massively stunted his efforts to be able to be within a chance, had there anything go wrong with the 788 Bentley up front, for MSA to take a crowning race win on the season premiere. See most recent move to the... Also, we currently have connection gate, where the server seems to have capped the max driver count to 64, even though I put it to 100, so people are struggling to join, by the way. Can we get a reminder on the 2-car max, please? Yes. So to reiterate a point previously given to us by Race Control, can we advise that if you are only next in line to get in the car, that you are in the server? Otherwise, leave. In the bluntest forms, you can't be here because you're capping out the connection limit. The drivers that want to come in and drive next can't do so. So only stay in here to be with your teams if you are next in the car. If you're not, then I'm afraid you have to leave. Oh, don't even get me started with that, Wesley, in chat talking about iRacing. Don't even get me started. Ivory towers, mate. Cathedrals with those for eyes to see it. That's okay. I wasn't expecting that quick of a response. I see him my bottom right there, sorry. It's okay, I'm not actually mad. I'm not actually mad. I am, but not in like the angry sense, I'm just mental. So, nearest fight on the track at the moment, Kevin Quain and Tobias Turner in the 777. Right now, clashing for what could be 23rd, faster of the two being Quain. And yellow flags are back out again. It was for the 60 car. That was one of the Team Raceline vehicles, if memory serves correct. Into even more trouble. You see, into the pit lane comes Till Schwering and Mario Reutjes. About an hour and 10 left to go. How far ahead is P1 right now? Asks TMX Phantoms in chat. Well, getting a look at it here. Bjorn Egil Kalseth just crossed the line. And right now, about to cross the line again, is Fazzy Binks. So there it is in the visceral form. That is how far up the road we are here. And really, I've never seen anything like it. Never, ever, ever. And this is really some of the magic that I think these two drivers are bringing to the table in that 788. Of course, the reigning champions in the pro category, mind you, the 788, but albeit it was in another British machine, the McLaren 720S. So to see them come back into the championship, and I sound like a broken record repeating it this many times, but to see them come back in with a car like a Bentley Continental, and then not only exceed expectations, but frankly annihilate them until they are a molten pile of glass, is probably the best way I could word it here. That is really something else for the 788 team. Hats off there to Fazzy Binks and Nat Bennett. I don't know what kind of mad science you had to conduct in the laboratories over at XCL, but well done. I think you may have just created ACC's first weapon of mass destruction in that 788. I'll be very careful over the next couple of weeks. Currently down in second then, Bjorn Egil Kalseth. And then on the podium right now, a great performance today for K1 Esports. On the podium on the season premiere for Season 2. They find themselves here third after recently getting the leg up there on Jack Giles' 313 Euro Titans Ferrari. Looking for where the nearest fight on the field could be. Look no further than Kuhleman v Bolton. The 415 versus the 77 on their exit of Boulderberg Haspelbach on his way down towards turn 10. These two very, very close to one another. Kuhleman
currently chasing down Bolton. Bolton up the road from him there by about 0.3 of a second at the last interval. So MSA versus NRW. Just a word there from Tyler Vermack. Proctor has been feeding them too much Monster energy. You know what I find, and I'm glad someone finally brought up this incredibly niche subject, so I have reason to go on a bit of a tangent about it. I don't get really that much energy from Monster. I think it's tasty. I get Monster usually for the taste. It tastes better than a Red Bull. I'll say that. I'm unabashed in saying that. I think Monster typically, not the original. I'd rather drink the oil out of my car than an original Monster, let alone the sugar-free one, God forbid. But in terms of its flavors, I'd say Monster still clears. Monster still clears, but here's the thing. Red Bull's catching up. Some of their new flavors, I will point this out, are really good. More on that in a moment's time, though. We're still on board with Coolerman as he chases down Louis Bolton in the 4-1-5. We can see into the pits, though, comes Liam Mutz. Also in the pits as well, Salvatore Borgetto and Keanu Geiger. Now having swapped out for Fabian Zobjak. Michael Picconi gets into the number 5 De La Maria car in favour of Borgetto. You can see there, Liam Mutz. Will we finally see a driver swap? Have XRL been able to finally clear the curse here on Connection Gate? I love putting gate on the end of every controversy because it simplifies it in a way that I can understand. Finally a swap here. Brodie Rollings into the number 3. Ben Meredith currently being chased by Kyle Williams. So catching back on board with Coolerman v Bolton. 0.8 of a second. Back onto this, right? I'll point this out. Red Bull's flavors are catching up. If you've ever had the Ice Edition, the Winter Berries one, it's the light blue can. It used to be called the Winter Edition until they brought out the Fuji Apple and Ginger one, which is also really nice. Red Bull's catching up in terms of its flavors. But I always find if I need energy, and this has been a case over when I used to do Sim Rally and stuff like that with Subaru, it was a Red Bull. It was a Red Bull 100% the time. Monster, it's tasty. I think Monster gives me a much lighter buzz than Red Bull. If I need energy, which is why I have been currently sinking 4 cans of Red Bull over the course of this broadcast alone. I'm on my 4th now. Yeah, that's the double-edged sword. I see that point raised by K1 Jupiter. It's like the sugar-free one is like not good. And yeah, I'll be honest, sugar-free Red Bull, I mean, it's like having a 0.0 Heineken. What's the point? I mean, you're having energy, unlimited energy, but no energy. You know what I mean? The whole point of an energy drink, clues in the name, get energy. Going into the pit lane, we can see up the road there, that's the number 30 Ford Mustang at this time, the Tempest Motorsports car. Into the pit lane goes Adam Saunders in his final stint. See here, Turner still in pursuit of Quain. They're about a second apiece there from one another. Still closer was the gap for a while there. Coolerman against Bolton. That's now dropped out to about a second and a half. I'm saying my favourite Red Bull is the green one. I've never had the green one before. That is a curious one. I've never had the green one before. I had most recently the Fuji Apple and Ginger, the new Winter Edition that they introduced for... they were going to introduce it much earlier in the F1 season, but I think they were trying to time it around Suzuka, but kind of doesn't work now because it's like the 2nd or 3rd race on the calendar. But the Fuji Apple one is really nice, like surprisingly nice. It doesn't really taste like an energy drink, you know what I mean? It's an odd taste. Coolerman in trouble there, out through Turleman. Right behind him there, Brodie Rollings finally makes a debut drive here, allowing Liam Mutz possibly to go to bed, because he's really earned some rest there. I'll be honest, you can't taste the ginger. I saw that in chat there, K1 Jupiter saying, I saw that one, but I didn't try it because I don't like ginger. You can't really taste it. It's mostly apple. Any Dutch people in chat, feel free to tell me what on earth those 3 are talking about, whether or not I have to auto-mod it. See here, Connor Letford now behind the wheel. Also one of those staple names of the Tempest Motorsports team, has been around
donkey's years alongside Adam Saunders and Brandon Roos and Zolt Beefgarten. I mean, they've been a very closely knit lineup there over at Tempest. They are inseparable. I can tell that K1 Cars tried to post a link. Would it be by any chance to the energy drink company that happens to sponsor part of K1's operations? I do wonder. So an hour and 3 minutes left to go. I'm seeing there as well, Wesley saying best fruit is Hertog Jan. I still need to try that. I can't find it anywhere. I'm pretty sure it's almost exclusively in the Netherlands. I've been looking just about everywhere I can in this country to find a can of Hertog Jan. I've been told it is quite something. Import it? It's kind of hard to do so. Mostly because importing anything into this country costs £10 trillion sterling amount, so... See here, very close action between Spencer Brown and Louis Bolton there. Louis Bolton trying to unlap himself from Brown on the way out through turn 3, and what a sight that is. The very faint orange glow just skimming the horizons of these drivers here on their way through turns 3 and 4. You can see there's Gijs Bruce in the number 323, if I'm not mistaken. That's further down the line there. 28 for him there. Down towards turn 7. Looking for where that nearest fight on track could be coming from. We do find ourselves in a little bit of that calm before the storm scenario that a lot of these endurance races fall victim of. With an hour and 30 seconds and a minute or so on top there left to go before the end of round 1 of the championship. It has definitely been a bit of a muddled day, but the show can finally go on here in NLRL's Console Endurance Series, and I wouldn't miss it for the world. It's been definitely quite a struggle on both sides to get this one underway. I'm glad that it's here. You can see here Jack Giles now 9 seconds from Jorbe van Herle. That gap opened up exponentially between 3rd and 4th. Very true. Very true. Not unrealistic to say that. Into the pits then goes Byron Forrest, swapping over for Christian LeBay. In the back of that top 10, Kieran Rodd taking 10th off of them there. So this will be one last drive here under the resting sun for the 119 here in Zolder. Handing it over to the Season 1 champion of the Sunday League, Christian LeBay, as he makes his way out of the pit lane. The final pit stop completed then for the Malois racing team. It's all or nothing now in the hands of LeBay. Anyone Jupiter saying, my Wi-Fi just died, what did I miss? The swap over most recently from Byron Forrest to Christian LeBay, as he drops now just out of the top 10 and in front of the Majestic Racing 94 here, Nick Mask, as now LeBay drops to 12th place. 2 more positions before he can put the 119 in the top 10. Bjorn Egil Kalsef into the pit lanes as well. We can also see just sneaking onto the left-hand side of our screens is the 51, Maxime Callin, with Sparco CTA Autosport. It's been a long evening here, folks, and we are far from done. 59 minutes still left to go. We see the driver swap perhaps there for the 51. We'll catch on board and see what has changed here. No, Callin stays in, so that is a surprising one. Was that a triple stint now for Callin? See there, a swap. We weren't able to confirm it. Now, from Bjorn Egil Kalsef emerges Marcus Carlos in the 414 as the final driver for the BMW. Jorbe van Herle has since overtaken, seemingly, the 414, putting K1 into 2nd place. But the question remains, for how much longer?
Oliver Mack saying you should keep an eye on the 787. He's going to gain a couple of places relatively quickly. So getting a look here, 787 of Luca Goenheimer. And he started from that front row. See into the pit lane, just running in parallel to him there. Actually, that is the race leader, Fazzy Binks, into the pit lane in the 788 Bentley. Nobby Van Hurler on his way down towards turn 10, but bear in mind, he's 2 laps down on the 788, so he will unlap himself from Fazzy Binks. The question therein remains, can he do it twice? I don't believe for the length of this pit stop that that's inherently possible. See up the order there. Ben Meredith caught up in a bit of a fight on his way down through the Kleiner chicane. He's got Brodie Rawlings and Spencer Brown for company there. We watch here with Brodie Rawlings. Just want to pick back up on the conversation from earlier. I was quite enjoying the chat with some of the people in chat about energy drinks. It was a case as well where I got told very recently on from someone on my university course that that supposedly the Monster Ultra drink is mid. I just don't buy that. Overrated, maybe. Mid, no. Come off of it. Come off of it. Surely not. Monster Ultra, I mean, it gets a rap. I don't know if it's a bad or inherently good rap, but it gets a rap. It's got a reputation of sorts. Okay, well, surely I am not in a chat full of mad people, full of insane asylum victims telling me that supposedly Monster Ultra is mid. I won't have it. I won't have it. I will not have it. Well, I will have it because it isn't mid. Oh yeah, I know why Kyle is saying he's upheld by contract to not promote anything besides advanced. I just don't buy the fact that Monster Ultra is mid. I don't get that. I don't see it. I think you're being deliberately contrarian as in efforts to prove a point. Drank by people who unironically say Sigma male. I wouldn't go that far. I would not go that far. I liked the original reputation that Monster Ultra had, where if you drank it, you were typically over the age of 30, which is like old, basically, if you drank a Monster Ultra. It was like the official non-alcoholic drink of your balding uncle. But, yeah, I don't buy that it's mid. You can say that it's got a reputation about it, and the kind of people who drink it have got a reputation about them, but I don't buy the fact that it tastes bad. There are way worse flavors of Monster out there. I will not be having it off of anyone. Cocktails are for blank, fill it in yourself. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna get into an argument about this. Listen, I don't really find myself going out of the way for cocktails. I kind of just sit in my kitchen sometimes, take a pitcher jug and pour whatever I can find into it. I'm like sort of a wizard in the apothecary making potions and stuff. Can chat see this says K1G, but no. Lewis Hamilton edition is pretty good. That's the Monster flavor. I find it's the Monster flavor that gives me no energy though. All of the sugar-free stuff just does now for me. I think that's just a case where, again, back to the comparison between Monster and Red Bull, I just don't get a buzz off of Monster at all. See now, Jorbe Van Hurler in the pit lane, I believe loses position out there to Marcus Carlos, now up to third for MSA Autosports. It drops K1 down to potentially fourth for Van Hurler, still behind the wheel. You also see into the pits as well with Spencer Brown swapping for Levi Warner in the 23 car.
Mango Loco. Yeah, it's a great suggestion. I genuinely can't think of something wrong with the Mango Loco Monster flavor. It's one of those like universally liked flavors. It's like saying you've got a problem with semi-skimmed milk. Like there's such a little overlap in people to where you'd find anyone with a very clear outlined opinion on that. It's just one of those universally good drinks. Have you tried the White Monster? It'll make you very hot. I have, and it doesn't. It just tastes all right. It's very, I will say, the sugar content in it is pretty high. It gets really sticky. If you mix it into a drink and you like spill any of it, it just turns that into like drag racing tarmac. It's really sticky, and it gets sickly as well. You couldn't do a full stream drinking multiple Mango Locos, in my opinion. Yeah, I just couldn't. That's why I drink Red Bull. That's why I've only exclusively drank Red Bull over the course of every live stream that I do, is because Monster just doesn't give me the energy, ironically. Oh no, it wouldn't be a case where I could do it because it's sickly. It just wouldn't give me any energy. For a 6-hour race, are you kidding? No chance, not at all. See, drive-through penalties coming through for Maxime Callan and Michael Picconi as well. 2 drive-through penalties there, just outside of the top 20. Big trouble there for the number 5, Del Ave Maria. Looking around the field to see where our nearest fights are coming from. We're a little bit strapped for choice here as we enter the final strategic phase. We see a little bit of a snap out there for Yannick Fredericks in the Whale Racing 696 car. Drive-through penalty there, now coming to Jan Bettentrup with K1 Esports is 111, so that is pushing them potentially outside of the top 15 by the end of today's race. That has been a great shame for them. Whereas up for the 113 at the moment, Jorbe van Herle still remains inside of that top 5. Will it ever get dark in Belgium, says Klopter. You'd really think so, but I think we might be accidentally racing during like the Icelandic midsummer. I mean, you'd have thought the sun would be gone by now. I mean, getting a look at the local time. Well, let's get a look on board with some of the drivers and see if we can piece together some information. It's 8:17 p.m. local. How has the sun not gone down yet? That's the exact reason I don't like the summer. It is the exact reason I do not like summery conditions. Great for racing. Takes way too long for the sun to go down. I mean, at the peak of summertime, it's still bright out. And it's like 9:30, nearly 10 in the evening. Like, come on. Come on. Imagine having to sleep early during that. If you like work early in the mornings, about 5, 6 in the morning, you'd never be able to get to sleep. You need blackout blinds. Bizarre, maddening stuff. Christian Lebay now up into the top 10. So that 2-car gap has now fallen away at the wayside, and with 50 minutes left to go, now the charge can begin from inside of the top 10. See that Nat Bennett giving ample company here to Yannick Fredericks. The Bentley now being allowed on pass down the opening straight. Yannick Fredericks holding the inside. There goes the Bentley around the outside. Down at turn 1. This could be the new fight on the charts here. The 787 Luca Goenheimer is catching up to Connor Letford. 1.5 seconds the gap right now between the 787 and the 30. We do just have a bit of news here. Yellow flags are out briefly through the Kleiner chicane towards turn 6. They've quickly cleared out. It's the 777 NRW car. Found itself into a spot of bother up in sector 2. You're looking here at the battle for 11th place on board with Luca Goenheimer. Down towards turn 5 we go then. A battle of the front engine titans. BMW and Ford, not too far up the road actually, is the Bentley of Christian Lebay. About 16 seconds there, and closing by the looks of it. He's already drawn in half a second in his efforts to get around Conor Letford. In through the tournament box then. Still bizarre to wrap one's head around the fact that this whole area of the track constitutes just turn 7. Of course, it was a redesign brought in the mid-1980s at the height of its use as the Belgian Grand Prix. Letford forfeits from the inside there, isn't looking to fight at this time with Luca Goenheimer. Is this a good strategic call by Letford? We'll find out with 48 minutes against the clock here. It puts Luca Goenheimer up to 11th place. Next in his sights will be Christian Lebay in the 119 Malois Racing Bentley. What was the method there? What was he cooking in that number 30? Conor Letford forfeits from 11th down to 12th. You can see the difference in pace at 28 to a 30. I mean, was there ever going to be the chance to defend, or are we perhaps seeing something different in Letford's drive, or perhaps is Letford seeing something else that we aren't? That is the real question. Looking further around track to see where our nearest fights could be coming from. Again, as we enter the final chapter here, we are a little bit starved for options, as drivers through strategy and through pace alone have brought themselves as far away as one can get on this grid today, ironically for one of the smallest, if not the smallest tracks on the calendar. Question therein remains, will we be seeing the same sort of action or even more action on the horizon when we head to Nürburgring on the 1st of November for round 2 of the championship, where we pick back up on the 3rd running in the last 2 years of the Nürburgring 6 Hours. So back on board with that fight of 11th place. Now on board with the car, having forfeited position but a moment ago. Conor Letford against Luca Goenheimer. What is the method to the madness here out of Letford? He finds himself still within a second of that 787. Right now heading down towards turn 1. His most present company is coming from the car behind him. Looking in those times though, he was only half a second-ish slower over the course of the last lap, yet he still finds himself hovering around the second margin. So where precisely can we measure here that he's getting the most of his time out of against that BMW? We know pound for pound, corner for corner, the BMW is just ever so slightly sharper over the Ford, but stability is what the Ford gives back in droves. Much, much harder to kick this thing wayward than it is for the slightly pointier BMW. We can see right now though, Louis Bolton is trying to get around Conor Letford and sort of wedge his way in between these two cars in their fight for 11th place. Letford's not having any of it. Sunset Gate, says K1 Jupiter in chat. I mean, yeah, it genuinely isn't going. It's 8:22 p.m. local. We have 45.5 minutes left to go in this race. The lights are on for the cars, and I imagine it's a little bit darker for these drivers in reality than it is for us here. Bear in mind, we do have our gamma turned almost all the way up so that we can see at night time. Looking around the field, Ben Cheeseman into the pits in the 114. We're watching on board at the moment with Christian Lebay, but let's get a look through the order with 45 minutes left to go here in what is now the 5 hours of Zolder. Nat Bennett leads the charge once more, 168 laps strong in the 788 Bentley alongside Fazzy Binks in the 788 exclusive esports car. Jack Giles in second place and ahead of Marcus Carlos, with Jorbe van Herle currently in 4th, rounding out the top 5, then Fatch GT's John Williams. And I must say, a great turnaround for Fatch in today's racing outlook. He now puts himself in that pivotal big 5 in that top 5 standings right now, comprised of 5 different teams and almost 5 different brands. Looking at it there, that would be exclusive Euro Titans, MSA, K1 and Fatch GT. Just outside of that top 5, but leading the charge for the Privateers division, Whale Racing's Yannick Fredericks in the 696. Levi Warner in 7th there in the number 23 car. Ben Cheeseman still on his way out of the pit lane here, could lose even more time out. And yes, actually has done so to Kyle Williams. Cheeseman emerges from the pit lane then, not too far away from the approaching car
in 10th place, Christian LeBay in the 119 Malois Racing Bentley. It puts Kyle Williams up to 8th, Cheeseman now in 9th. Luca Goenheimer, we saw his move earlier on against Connor Letford. He's up to 11th place, Letford in 12th, with Zen Vitus in 13th place. Dennis Kuhlmann in 14th place with Harry Palmer, rounding out the top 15. Jan Bettentrup down to 16th after that drive-through penalty for the 111. Niklas Koenig in 17th in the number 94 Majestic Racing BMW. Louis Bolton not too far behind Connor Letford on track, but on paper is in 18th place. And ahead of Ben Meredith, rounding out the top 20, Axel Cassier with Malois Racing Bentley. Brody Rawlings with XRL Heat, and you've really got to hand it off to these guys. They're 11 hours in difference to us here. They're competing out of Australia, the sole representatives of AXRL, the Australian Xbox Racing League. They find themselves after struggles to find their extra driver on the lineup. He couldn't connect for the longest time, so Liam Mutz, bless him, had to go well above and beyond on that stint time. It puts Brody Rawlings now in the final position to continue their charge forth. They're in 21st in the number 3. Tobias Turner currently ahead of Scott Milbank. This is the closest fight on track here. 22nd up for grabs between NRW Performance and K1 Esports. 22nd and 23rd for Turner and Milbank. Michael Picconi in 24th, for Andrew Veldkamp in 25th. Nathan Corbett in 26th, Dave Spruce in 27th. We have just dropped a car there as we now only have 28 cars left. So very peculiar stuff here. Just checking our top 5, nothing affected there. Looking then to our top 10, nothing affected there. So that is a bizarre one. I just only caught the rather bizarre suggestion from K1 Jupiter saying, should I join in the safety car and just missile a random car, spin a wheel or something? I don't think the race needs that. Maybe I probably just need to write more stuff into my script about things to talk about. I don't think we need hire a hitman for a day. Still seeing here the fight between Turner and Milbank for 22nd place on board at the moment with Turner. NRW Performance there, still fighting against K1 Esports, down just outside of the top 20. Tobias Turner behind the wheel. One of 2 Turners in the 777, the other being Sebastian Turner. They're joined by Jörg Masserat in the 777. See there, overtaking Milbank. Or lapping, I should say. That is Yannick Fredericks in the 696. He's up in 6th place now, wedges himself in between this fight for 22nd on the field. See, into the pits goes John Williams. So Fats GT looking to be relegated from outside of the top 5 here by Yannick Fredericks. Across the line goes the 696 and up to 5th place. We'll see how far does this carry forth, because Levi Warner, another Fats GT car, is not too far away from the 1-2-3 of Williams at this time. We can see quite a few Williams on the field, and we made that joke back in Imola, so we're not going to be repeating ourselves. Refer yourselves back to Imola. So with Williams still in the pit lane, Warner looks to overtake for 6th place. Levi Warner then potentially moving up to 7th, from 7th I should say, to 6th. We also have Kyle Williams chasing not too far from Warner. We'll see where John Williams himself lands on the exit of the pit lane, as the current entry list is set to update in a moment's time. We'll actually try and catch on board before that and undercut it entirely. We still do see Milbank v Turner on their way down towards Balterberg-Harschwell box. Something's got to give here between the 2 McLarens. Approaching from behind, Andrew Veldkamp and the Malois Racing number 616. See, Kyle Williams actually remains in 7th. So was it a case where he was, as a matter of fact, looking at it here, about a lap behind? Only time will tell us different. Right now on the exit of turn 6, down towards turn 7. See up the road there, Axel Cassier and Zen Vitus, 20th and 13th. So hang on just a moment. We want to double check all the information as and when it flies in. So no, John Williams has dropped position. He has dropped position there. He is down to 8th behind Kyle Williams. 20 seconds, the difference there between 7th and 8th place. It's now up to his fellow teammates at the Fats GT team to pick up the slack. Oh, so that's how we fix the problem. Well, we won't get fooled again on that one, folks. So far, it has been a very, very solid race. I like just every now and again throwing the name or lyrics from a song in there, see who catches. Oh my goodness, in the background, did you see that there? That's the 51 in serious trouble. Maxine Callan with Sparko CTA. Into the pits then, surely that's got to be the end of the road for them. The amount of times they've run into trouble, they just won't quit. Right now, it's a little hard to tell whether or not ETE will hold on to that P2, whether or not this is a strategic call. But right now, Jack Giles is seemingly... now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I believe he is in the chat right now, but I believe he's still set to give that seat back to Cas van Velzen. I might be mistaken there. We'll see what the going rates are. 36, just under 37 minutes here. Jack Giles, his way down towards turn 10. Behind him there, you can see his fellow teammate, the Euro Titans endurance team, that being Harry Palmer in the Mustang. So right now, if they come into the pits just to swap 4 drivers, it's going to invite in Marcus Carlos to return to second place with MSA Racing. Jorbe van Herle could potentially find his way to it. Now, I don't know 100% if there is the time there for Van Herle, but there could definitely be a fight between Euro Titans and K1 by the end of today's race, if we are to believe the following, that this is a strategic call. Giles is still up in second place and yet to give back to Van Velzen. There's already speculation and theory there in the chat. And I know as well that Van Velzen was briefly in our chat. I don't know if he still is, so if you are still in the chat, do feel free to inform us if that is the case. If not, keep your secrets. We'll find out eventually. 36 minutes left to go. You can see here Giles and Palmer down through turn 6. Looking for where the nearest fight on track is. You can see, looking back, it's Turner v Milbank. Turner having a little bit of connection trouble there, blinking in and out. That's not a great sign. You can see that almost immediately being picked up on there by Milbank. He's backed off through turn 4. He knows that trying for a move with a car this unstable for connection could cost him quite dearly. See, there goes Jack Giles. So yes, it was setting himself up for one final pit stop. So the 313 is in. So that is going to give rise for Marcus Carlos to return to the front row with MSA Racing's 414 BMW. And it could give the podium back to K1 Esports. Right now, Jorbe van Herle on the exit of turn 7 on his run down towards Boulderberg Harspelbocht at turn 8. But is the gap a little too wide for Van Herle to cross? See, the 313 comes to a stop right about now there for the Ferrari, so Giles will be getting out. Van Velzen likely to get in. You see here with Van Herle, I think he is definitely close enough, but it's going to be quite thin, the gap here, if they are really just stopping and dropping to get the drivers in. I think right now it'll be just outside of the podium, yes, as a matter of fact. So here comes Jorbe van Herle, K1 back up to 3rd. Now swapping in for Jack Giles. Let's see, will it be Cas van Velzen or is it a double stint for Giles? 34 minutes left to go. Let's see, though. You never say never on these sort of things. The swap is 30 seconds, but no, yeah, Cas van Velzen is in the car. Make no mistake of it. Exiting the pit lane comes Cas van Velzen onto the final stint for the Euro Titans 313. Jorbe van Herle up to 3rd then. Puts K1 on the podium. But now they are marked here. They're marked men in that 113, I should say, because the 313 has just been unshackled from his cage. Here comes Cas van Veltzen, a driver that I've gone as far to call the Flying Dutchman over the course of the Sunday League, a title previously held by Wesley Kuiper. This could be the next generation of Dutch racing talent out of Euro Titans. Van Veltzen's been let loose then, and now is on the prowl for a McLaren. Right now, Yannick Fredericks makes the top 5, so I must say it is fascinating here to see the progress of this relatively new team on our radar. Whale Racing Team's Yannick Fredericks is joined by Riyad Yasarevic on that team as well. We'll stay on board just a moment here with these drivers, and it is quite a bizarre lineup. Riyad Yasarevic and also Carlos Disch, who we've also seen collaborate alongside the K1 Esports team. I believe over on the XCL Pro Series he was set to race with the Aston Martin. And Carlos Disch, of course, otherwise went by White Doctor and went on to win in Season 8 of VSR Phoenix in a very controversial bout with Russell Nash, otherwise known as Just Boris. So a lot of history involved in that team there, and quite a poignant lineup to boot, because they're in that top 5, surrounded on all sides in that top 10 by pro-class drivers. "32 minutes to go." Closest fight at the moment. Look all the way down here for 18th place. Axel Cassier versus Ben Meredith. Meredith recently moving up into 18th place. At the last interval, they were 4 tenths apart. Now it's gone in benefit of the 315. But bear in mind, Ben Meredith has yet to take a pit stop involving a driver swap in today's race. He was yet to pass over to Alan Alexander. Could there be one more pit run for Meredith, or will he just have to deal with the consequences therein? We don't exactly know the full story for Meredith at this time. Axel Cassier still in pursuit in the 99 here. Finds himself inside of the top 20, looking for 18th place. So we've been told here we will void the penalty from race control. So we've been reported of an incident by Cheeseman. Bentley crashed and then reversed onto the track through a blind corner. Then got DC'd when trying to save the replay and can't get a car in server now. With that, well, let's get a count here through the various Bentleys. It can't be Bennett because he's still here. It can't be LeBay because he's still here. It can't be the 99 of Cassier. He's still here. And it can't be Veldkamp because he's still here. We also see trouble, though. That is for Zen Vitus. Oh, that's rash. That is rash. Have a word. Very nearly ended up in trouble. Oh, she's saying his car crashed. That is heartbreaking. Heartbreaking news there for the 114. Now we're seeing here with Axel Cassier being backed up on the Brody Rollings. This is the fight for 19th place we're seeing here. Rollings in the AXRL McLaren backing up onto the Bentley on your screens here, the 99. Right now on board with Axel Cassier. Looking around the field then as we drop into the final 30 minutes of racing. Cas van Veltzen, we mentioned before, has been unshackled and let loose onto Zolder for the last 30 minutes of racing. His next target, Jorby van Herlo of the K1 Esports team, will stay on board here with Van Veltzen as he rockets his way out of turn 5. Right in front of him, you can see the fight we were watching on with earlier between Cassier and Rollings. now entering the fray comes the 313. We'll stay on board here with Euro Titans' Cas van Velzen for the time being. You can see they're holding the inside. Who is that? That's the 24 Black Nitro car, Keanu Geiger. I always hate how the cameras don't track properly through Boulderberg Harshveld block. We really need to stop cutting to it there. But now getting around him, it's Cas van Velzen. In the pits at the moment, the 114. So Ben Cheeksman has been able to reconnect on this day, but currently resides in the pit lane, racking up lost positions. Really, it's quite a bitter end. It is quite a bitter end, and I still don't understand why the replay system is even in the game if all it does after a certain amount of time is crash it to the dashboard. I mean, it's basically just an ejection cord. That's what they've done. They've got a pull tab cord. You pull that, you launch yourself out of the game. Sparks kicked up in the face there of that 313 as he's now cruising up towards the back of Brodie Rawlings. Down through turn 5, you can see just how much of an effect that has on these cars. We spoke on it not long ago, as a matter of fact, was how much of an effect the curbs were having on GT4s back in our coverage earlier on today from the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Dino Ferrari for the HCCL GT4 Challenge. And you get to see that on display here because this is an even more extreme case, such as the Kleine chicane here at the Circuit Zolder. GT3s, yeah, they can definitely take the punishment, but it's not graceful. You know, these aren't stadium trucks we're talking about here. They are still very low-slung supercars. They will definitely feel a lot of that impact, but they can just handle it ever so slightly more because they are tailored for these racetracks. Now, having navigated past Brodie Rawlings, Cas van Velzen now has Kyle Williams in his sight. Bear in mind that gap right now between himself and Jorge van Heuler. 21.5 seconds. He's got a long way to go here, but the chances are still there for him to catch. Right now, he's a man on a mission, and he's not letting any form of traffic get in his way. We'll catch up with him later on. Looking for where our nearest fights are concerned, it was previously Cassier v Meredith v Rawlings. Those three now separated by about 2 seconds apiece on either side of it. Leaves them without much to do at this leg of the race. You see here Andrew Veldkamp behind the wheel of the 616. Now, this is an element of the Malois racing team lineup that have been seldom discussed over the course of today. They've had a very covert performance throughout today, down in 24th position. Veldkamp, Albert and Gaudreau, prevalent sites throughout the Competizione Performance League's GT4 Pro-Am Cup America Series, and also in their more recently announced Jaguar GT3 revival, of which is set for its restart this coming Wednesday from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway after technical difficulties delayed the first round. Had an understated performance around their contemporaries here, but are still alive and kicking. Nearly 200 laps into today's race. Looking from the point of view of our leading car with 25 minutes left to go, we will definitely, by the looks of it, be passing the 200 lap mark before the end of today's race. Matt Bennett leads the charge then, a present sight throughout last season's race winnings, constituted by the looks of the statistics alone. The 788 car that he's driving right now constituted half of all of the race wins of season 1. Bennett himself was directly involved in at least 3 of those. Seems that the Bentley chapter brings with it the best of both worlds of the race-winning cars from XCL's last season performance. Fazzy Binks leaves the 791, of which he raced with alongside Matteo Mastromauro on his exit from MSA Racing, to take home a win on their second ever appearance in that championship at round 6 of Watkins Glen International. Bennett, of course, 3 of those 5 race wins, either with Elmar Mikkelsons or Paul Moller. 24 minutes left to go then. Nearest fight could be kicking off very, very shortly here. Luca Goenheimer behind Christian Lebay. Of course, Lebay is on his final stint here with 24 minutes left to go. There is the chance that the Bentley will have to come back in, but 3.7 seconds behind him and potentially set to close in a moment's time. Luca Goenheimer in 10th place. This will be a real turnaround for Christian Lebay, considering that due to the stint gate crisis, he did find himself at the back of that field alongside plenty of other teams. We did see, actually, up the road, not sure who for yet, the 115 in serious trouble, though. Scott Milbank off at the Kleiner chicane. We can see up the road here from Lebay in the 119. Making his way down through turn 6. Now, I did see a very rare sight indeed, the meatball flag come out, the black and orange, indicating technical problems will force whatever driver it's attributed to into the pit lane to get it fixed immediately. We did see that fly out. Now, was it a case of someone just not turning their lights on? A very easy way to pick up a meatball flag. Was it a case that there is some severe damage? By the looks of things, looking at Milbank, a driver recently involved in a yellow flag incident at turn 5, probably just a case, you can see up the road there. And that yellow flag, not yellow flag, that black and orange flag flew in the face of the number 5 of Michael Picconi. So let's see if we can get on board with the Ave Maria car as we see Scott Milbank now taper in behind Christian Lebay's Bentley. You can see that Axel Cassier, another one of the Malois cars, still firmly in a fight here, but we want to try and catch on board as we continue our extended investigation into who has the meatball flag. Is it the case that the Ave Maria cars have still yet to turn their lights on? Or is there another issue entirely? Yes, so we're looking here, and if we bring up the data a little bit more... it's sadly just out of sight of the banner there, but yes, they do have the black and orange flag. You can see it being waved in their face there by the stewards. They've yet to turn their lights on, but pray tell, why do they need the lights? The track is still very much so lit up. Moreover, as always, it's 8:45 p.m. The sun's still out. You can see there, it's just beyond the horizon. I can still see. Sometimes the lights are desynced, so they're getting meatball for you, but on their end, it's fine. Oh, that is bizarre indeed. This is ACC heritage. Nothing in this game makes any sense. I think after streaming on ACC for a little over 2 years, it is just a case where this game routinely gaslights you into thinking you're going insane. And very often you actually are. So, isn't that fun? 21 minutes left to go. We're back on board with Christian Lebay. Let's get on board, though, with his teammate Axel Cassier. Now 1.2 seconds from Brodie Rollings. Kyle Williams right now right behind the 99 Bentley of the Malois Racing Team. Blue flags given to the 99, but he's not moved out of the way just yet. Right now, checking back in on that gap between Goenheimer and Lebay, we see that the gap is now down to 1.5 seconds. So we will be looking at a fight here between Lebay and Goenheimer. You can see the two only separated right now by Scott Milbank in the 115. On their way down through Canal Box in towards turn 4. Lucien Bianchi box gives rise to the run down to the Kleiner chicane. Milbank with a better exit. Will he be looking to try and unlap himself here? It's a bit of a dangerous spot to do so. And with a car as big as the Bentley, there's very little room to be found side by side. That's one of its best attributes, as a matter of fact. That can play quite conversely against Lebay at the worst of times here. Out through turn 6, we stay on board then with the 119 as the battle of the ninth is quickly approaching. Milbank still merely a passenger amongst this fight here. In his efforts to try and get around Lebay, you can see Michael Picconi up in front in the Ave Maria Ferrari. 20 minutes then left to go here in Zolder. We're firmly in towards the dusk now. As you can see, the sun's well beyond the horizon, slowly dimming from the sky in its entirety as we make our way through turn 10. Kyle Williams, I will point this out, is into the pit lane, so strategy differences for the 789 or perhaps even an emergency. The 789's into the pit lane, coming out just now, but being overtaken by Christian Lebay. So it puts not one but two exclusive cars on the back end of the 119 Bentley. So Lebay is now a marked man in the eyes of the exclusive esports team in their efforts to get back up through the top 10. 19 minutes then left to go. Lebay is going to have to put on a defensive masterclass here as to not let Scott Milbank pave the road for Luca Goenheimer to get up and around him. what we are seeing is a multi-layered fight for 8th place on our hands here, with Milbank forfeiting to Goenheimer. He knows that he's not really got anything to lose in this fact, because actually surfing their line up towards Bocconi will probably serve him better in the next 20 minutes. Down towards turn 7 we go then. This is what we've been waiting for, a proper brawl here between some serious heavy hitters. We've been starved of that for a little too long today. Fights usually only coming and going in the span of maybe a lap or two. Let's hope this isn't the case, but going up the inside, wasting no time here, is Luca Goenheimer on Christian Lebay. Out through Volderberg Harschbelbocht, he puts 4/10 on the Bentley. That was incredibly fast. See what the fight back is looking like here from Christian Lebay later on the brakes, following the BMW in through turn 10 at the Jackie Xbox. You can see how much more poke, though, it's got through the second half of turn 10. That was lightning fast. Blink and you'll miss it there out of Luca Goenheimer. He struck without almost any warning. Meanwhile, Scott Milbank still clings to the back end of Christian Lebay on his way through turn 3. Turn 2, I should say, into turn 3. That was astronomically fast. I may have spoken a little too soon on these battles lasting a little amount of time. I think we're almost in the face of it kind of blessed to see a fight go on for multiple laps, because that was over in the span of a couple corners. 17.5 minutes left to go here in round 1 of the Console Endurance Series Season 2. It has been, as mentioned throughout the stream, it's been a bit of a struggle to get this one together. Plenty of different controversies clashing into one from a technical standpoint on both sides. But fortunately, we're still here with 17 minutes left to go. Down towards turn 8, in towards turn 9 in a moment's time. Lebay still continues the charge inside of that top 10, albeit having very swiftly lost out on his chances of P8, courtesy of a rapidly advancing Luca Goenheimer. Cutting back over to his teammate at the Malois Racing team, we can note here that Axel Cassier has dropped considerable lengths of time to Brodie Rollings with the AXRL Heat team. Now that gap resides at 3.5 seconds between 19th and 20th. Physical gap there, you can see quite the hefty distance now between Rollings and Cassier. His chances for a top 19 swiftly scattered. Jorbe van Hurle currently remains in 3rd place. Strategically, I think the K1 esports team may have it nipped in the bud here for a podium appearance to kick off the season. We'll stay on board here with Van Hurle. Right behind him, Gianluca Zamponi, also hunting down Christian Lebay, but you can see the gap considerably larger than it was for Luca Goenheimer, his teammate at the exclusive esports team. Now, I'm quickly taking a look back through some of the old race results back in Season 1 to see where will the teams be looking in comparison to how last season kicked off. Now, one must consider that Imola did not end in the normal circumstances of a standard race in this championship. But this one didn't start in the normal ways of a standard round of this championship, so I guess they have that much in common. Looking at where most of these teams finished, now I want to draw direct comparisons between some of the major teams up in that Pro Championship, as the elephant in the room, of course, being the NLR Esports, who won that opening round, are no longer a present factor in console sim racing at this time. The 788 car finished 3rd back in Season 1. They're looking to finish 1st, skipping any formalities of waiting a few rounds before getting their first race win of the season. They are looking to take a grand slam, as it were. Though technically not a grand slam, because they didn't lead every single lap of this race, if I'm not mistaken. We'll have to double check that. We will fact check that for round 2. Looking at it here, the K1 Esports car, the #1 Ford Mustang, finished in 4th place. So this is an overall net improvement. K1 find themselves on the podium straight off the bat here. Bear in mind, still about 14.5 minutes left to go. I've just got word there, Elias Svenningsson says he's willing to be interviewed. Just so you know, I'm happy to be interviewed then, says Svenningsson. We'll have a chat with him. And by proxy then, Jorbe van Hurle, if he's available for a chat by the end of this race. Of course, we will be getting a word out of the race winners, Nat Bennett and Fazzy Binks. That is if they are to win this race. I will point that one out. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Yes, they are leading by a country mile, but disconnects exist. Let's not pull anything too early out from under us. 14 minutes left to go. I mean, they are on a warpath drive. We just saw trouble there. That was the 223, one of the Thatch GT cars at a spot above her. You also see Maxime Callin take a bit of dirt with them there. Looking at where it stands right now, nearest fights on the field are a bit sparse once more. LeBay from Goenheimer, we can see he's still been given present company there by the 1-1. Looking at it here, I believe that is the 1-1-5 there, Milbank. Milbank, I want to point out, has actually been led directly into the path of Michael Picconi, so he's been given a little bit of a free slipstream on his run up towards the Ferrari of De La Ave Maria's Michael Picconi, courtesy of Christian LeBay, the Bentley in front of him. He's got his trailer then hitched to that Bentley, and it's going to bring him all the way up to that fight of 22nd. You can see there LeBay trying to shake himself loose of this current train. So I've just been told as well, once the checkered flag drops, there's going to be an announcement from race control. We're going to read that out before we conduct any interviews here. That'll more likely than not be with at least one of the drivers from each of the podium sitting cars. We're also going to try and get a word out of the division leads as well. So as it stands in the next 12 minutes, if it is to remain this way, it'll be from any of the drivers over at the Whale Racing team. That either being as it stands here, Riyad Yasarevich, Yannick Fredericks or Carlos Deesh. If we can't get a word out of them, we will of course ask by this point. If they say no, then obviously we'll just get to the announcement and get that one out of the way. But Eleven and a half minutes left to go. We're still on board with Yannick Fredericks. Looking for that nearest fight. Let's get on board, though, with Milbank v Picconi. 22nd up for grabs here between the number 5 and the number 115 on their way out of turn 6. See, looking up the inside for a moment there, Scott Milbank against Michael Picconi. Staying on board here with the 115 on their way down through Lucien Bianchi-Bocht. That's the, yes, it is the right one. I had to double check that one. It's been a long, long day. Watch car number 51, says Shumi977. Let's get a gander here with Maxime Callin. Oh, it's trouble. I mean, you got to respect the fact that they're still willing to keep this going. I think most teams would have thrown the towel in by now, but not the 51. Maxime Callin is adamant to see the checkered flag, but I don't know if there'll be much of a car left to drive to the checkered flag at this rate. So catching back on board then with the fight, the 115 and the number 5. Scott Milbank having dropped seemingly a considerable chunk of time away at the last interval there. Now 5.9 seconds. Milbank now behind Cheeseman and Zamponi.
can see that Callan can barely keep the car in the clear and narrow. That's got to be critical damage by this point. Someone has got to be the one to tell them. Back into the pits then goes Callan in the 51. So it looks like we have a few interviewees at least lined up here. We'll see as and when we can get around to them in the next 8 minutes before. Oh, not 8 minutes before. Actually, we're not going to do it before the end of the race. It's after the end of the race. So 8 minutes left to go here in Zolder. We're on board at the moment with Marcus Carlos in the 414. Hoping to get a word out of him and his team at the MSA Racing 414 BMW. A great result looking to be on the horizon for them today. They fought through thick and through thin to put themselves where they are. Him, Killing Koglu and Bjorn Egil Kalsef looking to revel in a podium finish coming up in 7.5 minutes. He just gets around the Andrew Veldkamp in the 616 Malois Racing Bentley. We're also set to make interviews here by the looks of it, should they appear on the podium, between Jorge van Herle and Elias Svenningsson, both of them willing to conduct interviews post-race. If they are to finish on the division lead, Yannick Fredericks and Carlos Deitch could be on the interviewee charts for the end of round one. And of course, who could forget the race leaders, Nat Bennett and Fazzy Binks. Of course, we'll try and get around to all of these drivers as and when we can. This will be just for the start of the season, I think, because as we found historically, the interviews are not 100% reliable, just in the sense of a technical standpoint and also driver availability. Not everyone is as extroverted to want to have a chat live on air, and that's understandable. We've been in that position ourselves. Bennett still leads then by 2 laps strong over Marcus Carlos. We are entering the final coming laps of this race, functionally looking at about 4, maybe 5 more laps before we hit the checkered flag on what has definitely been a bit of a muddled start to the season. But I'd say in my mind, better late than never. Jorge van Herle currently 3rd. Cas van Velzen slowly closing the gap here, so there is potentially something to be spoken of in a fight for 3rd. That has been a gap brought down by quite a distance here. Oh yeah, I've just seen as well a van 2, well technically a van 3-4, isn't it? Van Herle and Van Velzen. For where the nearest fights could be coming from. Harry Palmer versus Jan Bettentrup, so there could yet be some fighting left to be said between K1 and Euro Titans in contention of 13th place there. BMW versus Ford. Quickly checking in then with Bettentrup. Sort of quiet sort of tension we're seeing between these two here as they make their way down towards turn 7. You can see a little bit of twitching on either of these two cars. The Ford and the BMW stretched to their absolute limit here. Palmer and Bettentrup looking to get into arms in a moment's time over the course of the next 4 minutes for contention of 13th place. You can also see not too far away from a fight themselves, looking up the road. This is for 11th place, Letford v Zen Vitus. So
So Race Vision versus Tempest Motorsport. Bear in mind, these are for the remaining positions on the privateer class podium. So a lot up for grabs here between the 9 and the 30 on their way down towards turn 1. We'll catch up with them towards the end of today's race. We're back on board with Jan Bettentrup in the discussion of the fight for 13th up against Harry Palmer. Down towards turn 1 they go. Three minutes, 20 seconds left to go. Functionally looking at about 2 to 3 more laps, depending on the position of the race lead at the moment. The 788 making their way down through turn 6, headed towards turn 7 at the Turleman Box complex. So that is looking functionally at about 2 more laps from here on out. Little bounce there for Jan Bettentrup on the exit of turn 5. Slowly but surely stifles his ability to get around Harry Palmer. Better of the 2 exits on his way in towards turn 6 and 7. Cut away from these two for just a moment here as we see up the road, divided by about half a second as the camera pans around. Previously having followed Palmer and Bettentrup down towards Bolderberg Hartspielbocht is the growing fight as well for 11th place. Zen Vitus versus Connor Letford in the fight for the last of those, the last 2 steps, I should say, of the privateers podium. So they're fine on their way out of turn 10 in towards turn 1, back on board with Bettentrup and Palmer. Down towards turn 1, barely any room between them there through Ernst Corner. Drive-through penalty, just seen that come up for Luca Goenheimer. So serious trouble, but one driver who's not going to be too upset about the recent news then is going to be Christian Lebay, who'll have regained 8th place. This is a great bit of news for the Malois racing team. Redemption after trouble in today's race. They find finally a silver lining to this proverbial dark cloud. I could barely get the words out anymore. I mean, honestly, brain fog is doing things to me. I think it's less brain fog, more brain damage at this point. With about a minute left to go, we are not short from the final lap. Nat Bennett, having already kicked that off, will be on board with these two towards the end of this lap here, as they are not far from the checkered flag. In second place right now, Marcus Carlos. In third place, K1's Jorbe van Hurle and Elias Svenningsen. Cas van Veltzen, I want to point this out, has dropped the gap, but he's a little too far away with too much traffic in the way of it here. He's got one more lap coming up after the one he's on right now to try and catch Van Hurle. Had it been a little longer here, he could have found his way up to the 1:13. Goenheimer with that drive-through penalty. I mean, is it a case that he's even going to serve that on track? Is he going to wait until after the race is concluded for him to serve that penalty? Well, not much time left to consider it here. Nat Bennett and Fazzy Binks are making their way out of turn 8 as we speak, so we'll be catching on board to quickly receive the arrival of the 788. The reigning Pro Division champions of the Console Endurance Series return once more under the veil of a brand new brand, ditching McLaren for Bentley, but they have not ditched their chances at success. Down towards the line after 5 hours here in Zolder, they win after 5 hours of racing on a troubled opening round. What a drive indeed. Just short of 200 laps today. They're your overall winners. And the first time in NLRL history that Bentley has won as a manufacturer. Absolutely glorious sights then to behold on the podium coming up shortly. Down towards the line then for second place today. MSA's 414 of Marcus Carlos, Bjorn Egil Kalseth and Ilkay Killing Koglu. Then to the line coming up shortly for third place. They're making their way out through turn 9 as we speak. It's the 113. Not too far away from them, I believe. Here is the 313. Oh my goodness, did you see that there? That's Milbank getting turned around like a Beyblade. That was brutal. Down to the line then, quickly to receive their first podium of the season. The 113 K1 Esports car of Jorby van Herle and Elias Svenningsson. Picking up the division win in privateers. Yannick Fredericks, Riyad Yasarevich and Carlos Dish in the 696 Whale Racing BMW. Getting a look at the entirety of that grid here, you can see Nat Bennett and Fazzy Binks, welcome back to the top step of the podium there. We can see, following on that post-race 30-second penalty, Luca Goenheimer in 8th does not lose the position out, so it seems, to Christian Lebay. We'll actually see what the full confirmation of that is looking like at this time, where there's plenty of post-race penalties there, some of which are being cleared by race control, so I am told. But the bottom line is your overall race winner, Nat Bennett and Fazzy Binks, and then your privateer division winner, the 696, Riyad Yasarevich, Yannick Fredericks, and Carlos Dish with Whale Racing. What a drive today then. The show had to go on. There was no chance we were going to try and delay this one today. And I'm glad that it went on as it did. We'll wait for that full result in a moment's time. I think we're waiting to receive the 3-2-3 at this time. Wow, it is quite something to behold here. We are trying to get in touch with a few of the drivers from not only the podium here overall, also trying to get a look on with the division not division champs, the division winners, I should say. A little too early in the season to be saying that. Division winners in privateers. There you can see the final results having come through, and it does elevate Malois Racing's Christian Lebay to 8th place. So looking at it there, Nat Bennett from Marcus Carlos, Jorby van Herle, Cas van Veltzen, Yannick Fredericks, Levi Warner, John Williams, Christian Lebay, Gianluca Zamponi, and Luca Goenheimer in that top 10. Full results will be available via SimGrid after any post-race rulings from race control. The bottom line, your overall winners, the 788 of Exclusive Esports, and the privateer winners, the 696 at Whale Racing. So let's see if we can get a word from some of these drivers today. Starting us off then, would be likely to have a chat with the 788 of either Fazzy Binks or Nat Bennett. We'll see if we can try and get in some kind of contact with either of the two. Now, we aren't expecting anything up front here, considering that not many of these drivers actually know they're getting called, but we wanted, in the nature of doing an interview today, to try and get in touch. SimSport Racer, how can we do an interview? Literally just call over Discord. It's a lot less glamorous than it actually is. So first of all, we're going to try and contact Fazzy Binks. Now, I'm not expecting anything here, so we are kind of gunning this one a little bit loose and fast today. Let's see if we can get a word. And if we can't catch a word with them today, we'll try and contact them for at least a private word, and we'll reflect that over the course of the next stream. But we like to try and conduct the interviews in the nature of trying to get good interactions with all of the drivers. And since there was already people asking for it, let's see how many we can get off of that podium. So trying to contact right now Fazzy Binks to ask him on his result with his teammate Nat Bennett. Well, sadly, doesn't appear to be the case this time around that we'll be hearing from Binks or from Nat Bennett. I was trying to get in touch there specifically with Fazzy Binks just because we know his contact information via Discord. Of course, you want to reach out and let us know about that. But let's see if we can get a word out of the next team on the field, that being Marcus Carlos and his MSA 414 lineup. And same story around. Okay, so fair enough. We can't get any interviews off of the people off of the front row. Look, how we're going to conduct this, we'll ask you later on. I imagine tensions and adrenaline are at an all-time high. The last thing you want to do is sit down and try and conduct an interview formally over the stream. Moreover, I don't think half of you get the notification anyway. So that'll be all from us here on TRTN. We'll be asking a lot of the drivers that want interviews in private on what their words and what their thoughts are, and we'll reflect that over the course of the next stream coming up here in the Console Endurance Series. A muddled start to the season, but otherwise we got it done in the end. After Zolder then, so we're heading over to the Nürburgring on the 1st of November, then to Bathurst on the 15th of November, then rounding out our races for 2025, Silverstone 6 hours on the 29th of November, and Imola for the shortest round of the championship on the 13th. Oh boy, I keep getting a lot of requests in here from the folks over at the 113. All right, okay. I mean, we're kind of trying to do this in sequence, but sure, we'll get the 113 on board. We were going to ask them in private, but so on and so forth. Let's get them involved. So let's go and find, just to get a word out of either of the two. They really want to be on. I mean, fair enough. I respect that a lot. I did not think there would be this level of fanaticism amongst the viewers in chat, but who do we contact then? Van Herle or Svenningsen? Genuinely, I'm not even kidding. I can't find them. Okay, look, I'll make you a deal. We'll interview you at the start of round 2. Because I really want to go to bed now. So that's all from us here on TRTN. We'll catch on with quite a few of the drivers in next round. That's all from us. Take care. Good night.